Former First Lady Michelle Obama suggested that Americans weren't ready for her natural hair, instead opting for a straightened look. GBH's Callie Crossley joins us to discuss this and the denial of Mariah Carey's application to become the official Queen of Christmas. Oh no, it's all to come. Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Dwayne Brown. A heavy snowstorm is hitting the Great Lakes region with snowfall in Buffalo, New York, reaching historic levels. NPR's Amy Held tells us much of the city and surrounding areas have shut down.
Even by Buffalo's no stranger to snow standards, this storm is sticking out. The NFL taking the rare step of moving Sunday's Bills game against the Browns out of the city to Detroit. With visibility near zero in Buffalo, officials banned motorists from roadways, though they later shifted the ban to an advisory.
There is still the extreme when it comes to the heavy snow.
4 feet forecast by the time it ends Sunday, says Dan Neverth, Erie County Emergency Services Commissioner.
This lake effect snow has a very, very high water content, very, very heavy, and more likely to take down potentially branches and power lines.
Videos circulating online show the eerie phenomenon of thundersnow, with lightning illuminating the snowfall. Amy Held, NPR News.
North Korea test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile today that fell into the sea off the coast of Japan. As NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports, there have been 50 test launches in the past 2 months.
South Korea's military said the missile traveled about 621 miles to the east, reaching a maximum altitude of nearly 3,800 miles. The missile landed about 124 miles off the coast of northern Japan's Hokkaido prefecture. Japan's defense minister said that with a flatter trajectory, the missile could have reached the U.S. mainland. The U.S. and South Korea responded by dropping laser-guided bombs in a simulated attack on mock enemy missile launchers. At a summit in Thailand, Vice President Kamala Harris called the North's test a brazen violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Russia, which has vetoed proposed UN sanctions on North Korea, expressed concern about the situation on the Korean peninsula and called for all parties to avoid confrontation. Anthony Kuhn, NPR News, Seoul.
More Twitter workers are leaving the social media company after its billionaire owner gave them an ultimatum: either pledge to hardcore work or quit with severance pay. This comes after Musk paid $44 billion for Twitter last month, then laid off half of the company's 7,500 full-time employees. NPR's Shannon Bond says it appears the company is losing some critical expertise.
Musk overpaid for this company, and he has all this debt to service, so he's under pressure to cut costs, increase revenue. This week, he told remaining workers that they had this choice: stick around the new hardcore Twitter, work long, intense hours, or they could leave with 3 months of severance. And they had to decide by Thursday afternoon. And that time rolled around, and it appears a lot of people are choosing door number 2. They're leaving Twitter.
NPR's Shannon Bond. It also comes as the platform gears up for the World Cup, one of the busiest events on Twitter. You're listening to NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro in Brookline this Friday. The MBTA board is giving qualified support to the T's plan to revamp its bus network. It's the first major changes to the system's bus route in some 60 years, 6-0. Quincy Mayor Tom Koch is on the board. He says he's approved the plan, but only if changes can be made during implementation. He says that even with recent revisions to the proposal, fellow mayors have told him that they're worried about some route changes.
And I understand there's no perfect plan, but as we continue to move forward with it, that the T administration will be open to suggestions from some of these communities and try to resolve some of these disparities in their view.
Some board members and elected officials say they want more public input before permanent route changes are made. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren is helping to take the lead in Congress's investigation of the collapse of the FTX cryptocurrency exchange. The Globe says that Warren and Senator Dick Durbin sent a letter to FTX and its former leader, Sam Bankman-Fried, a native of the Berkshires, we might add, asking for answers to questions about its misuse of billions of dollars that belong to its clients' funds. Regulation of the crypto market has been on Warren's radar for quite some time. The FTX FTX meltdown has also brought the names of several celebrities and sports stars to the forefront. People like Tom Brady and Steph Curry and Shaquille O'Neal, Larry David, Gisele Bündchen, and the list goes on and on. In sports, the Celtics in New Orleans tonight. The Patriots host the Jets at Gillette on Sunday. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Dataiku, a platform for everyday AI to help organizations make AI part of their daily business, designed to elevate people, teams, and companies. Dataiku.com.
Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. You are listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live as we do every Tuesday and every Friday from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News.
And we're joined here live, as we are every month, at the Boston Public Library by the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. She'll be with us for the hour, taking our questions and your calls, as she just marked 1 year in office. Mayor Wu, it's great to see you.
Thanks to be here, as always.
Yeah, thank you very much.
By the way, can we get this out of the way?
Yes.
Marjorie said you were a class act.
Yes.
And we are classless.
We're deadbeats.
You brought us something yet again. What'd you bring today?
So this was, I just like to take every opportunity to show and tell our local amazing small businesses. We had a press conference in Mattapan this morning on home ownership. Right around the corner is the community institution, Le Foyer, a bakery, a Haitian bakery that has been there forever and ever. So these are patties, chicken and beef patties. I had mine in the car already.
Thank you so much.
Now, I don't want to put you on defense, but in about an hour or so, Joanne Chang is coming. And I'm guessing she's bringing some stuff too, so there may be some real competition
So at
today,
my wedding reception, we had served, for desserts, we had served two things: her tartlets, when Flour used to make the little tartlets. I'm obsessed with those. And then the brambles from Sugar Bakery in West Roxbury, which are my other favorite.
In any case, by the way, if you want to speak to the mayor, ask her a question, it's 877-301-8970. You can text or call. And if you are at the library, Mackenzie, our colleague right here with her hand raised, walk up to her, and if your question is not absurd, there's a decent chance you'll be able to ask the mayor the question directly today.
So, Mayor, you just mentioned at a press conference having to do with housing, which is a massive issue in Boston. You've got some a plan for some affordable housing and home ownership help. What is it?
It was exciting. We were all a little bit in the frigid cold, but it was because we were standing on the site of a new home, two single-family homes right next to each other in Mattapan under construction that had been kicked off earlier in this year. We know that homeownership, housing affordability is the number one issue across the city, every generation, every demographic. It is the core of who will be able to stay and thrive and work at the businesses here in Boston. And so our federal dollars are being put to work right directly for that. At a time when many other cities are still trying to figure out what to do with all their recovery dollars, we've said housing is a priority. So today we announced a batch of new homes that we built on city-owned land. We'd audited every single bit of property, usually empty lots or other buildings at vacant spots that the city has owned directly. More than 300 homes will be able to be built directly on those lots. We're also creating a pathway for residents of Boston Housing Authority, publicly subsidized housing, to go directly from subsidized housing to home ownership, skipping through the gauntlet of can you find a place to rent, can you then save up enough to have a down payment. We are increasing all of our down payment assistance programs in partnership with communities. So we're doing everything we can to stabilize residents.
Who's eligible for this program?
So some of the programs depend on, are targeted towards first-time home buyers. You have to go through a class with one of our partners in the city, and then once you finish the class, then you're eligible for matching down payment assistance. Usually there's a certain AMI, area median income cutoff, and particularly if you are a first-generation home buyer, there's even more resources available.
How do people find out about it?
You can go to the city's website, and if you look up, go to the Office of Housing's website, they'll have all of these programs on there.
Now, you have a busy day. That was before you showed up here. After you leave here, you're the MC, the kicker-offer, or whatever it is, of the transformation of that hellscape known as Boston City Hall
You mean
Plaza.
the most beautiful
Well, maybe
architectural
now.
wonder of the world?
What a disaster. So what'd you do? What's it going to look like?
It's going to be stunning. And this is just a place where, these projects take a lot of time. There was a lot of visioning that happened under the Walsh administration, under Mayor Janey, who continued it. And now we get to cut the ribbon now on a transformed City Hall Plaza. If anyone had been to that space before, it was designed at a time when the goal was to be able to have a place for tens of thousands of people to gather and have large rallies. We communicate differently these days, and we need smaller spaces. So there's a civic pavilion now, an indoor space that is open for community meetings and other functions. There's a much smaller area outside for public events. There are places where small businesses now can have pop-up locations, and so and there's a playground. So
I heard a lot of trees too. Yes, a lot
there are
of trees.
Trees, yep, all throughout, and the whole thing is now universally accessible. There were a lot of stairs before.
In addition to the thing you're doing, I think at 1 o'clock, the formal kickoff, isn't there an open house or some such thing?
Yes, people
5
can come
days a
take
night?
tours throughout the day today and over the next.
Before we get to
weeks.
Cole, staying on housing for a second, we've talked to you about 10,000 times about your rent control, or what you call rent stabilization plan. And I believe candidate Healy said here and elsewhere that she was open to a local option, a rent control thing, not a statewide mandate, but individual communities could do it. Have you had an opportunity to talk to her about this or any other of your Beacon Hill agenda since November 8th?
I have not yet. I know a little bit of what a very stressful transition process feels like, and so we have not had time to sit down yet, but that is in the process of getting on the books, and I'm so eager to get started. But she has a whole statewide transition to manage. We are moving forward with our plans on rent stabilization. The goal had been throughout this last year, work with our advisory group, which includes folks from real estate, community advocates, academics, explore, learn, research, understand the conditions in Boston, and work towards a proposal. There are a couple different facets. Rent stabilization has a bunch of different variables. Is there any sort of cap? What is capped? Is it the rate of growth? Is it the level of rent? Are there exemptions for new construction for a certain period of years? And so those are all the fine-grained details, but we plan to have legislation to send up for the new legislative session come January.
But just quickly, your understanding of her position is the way I described it a second
right.
ago, that she is supportive of this.
Our number is 877-301-8970. You can call us or text us at that number. You can also see Mackenzie out in the audience if you are at the Boston Public Library and you want to ask the mayor a question. One quick thing from me before we go to the calls, Mayor Wu. The Boston Foundation just did this big study and talked about how for the last decade, because of stalling at the city, state, and federal levels, Boston's behind on its climate goals, which is not great news. But there does seem to be some pretty good news about electricity, both this community choice electricity program and this Vicinity energy. So tell us about those.
Yeah, it's increasingly apparent across the world that localizing your energy sources is not only cheaper, creates more jobs, but also then can insulate you from the market shocks when there are international geopolitical situations that can affect things like the price of oil. And so several years ago, it was proud on the city council to introduce a plan and a program that would allow the city of Boston to create a new default electricity program plan for our residents and some small businesses that has a higher sourcing of renewables. It took a while to get through the city and state approvals for that. We kicked off earlier, I think 2 years ago now was when the program really first started getting running across the city. And we're seeing now that because the price of oil and other sources of electricity are so affected by Ukraine and other situations, that our current default electricity plan for the city, our green electricity plan, is on average almost $35 a month cheaper than the utility company's default plan. And even our plan, we offer a range of plans ranging from a certain percentage of renewables all the way up to 100% renewables. Even our fully 100% renewable plan is way cheaper per month than the utilities basic plan that doesn't have renewables.
You know, when I read about this morning, I turned to Marjorie and I said, I must be misunderstanding something, because when I looked at the rates, forget the notion that it's green as compared to what is. Why would anyone not opt for this program when it's cheaper? What's the answer to that question?
It's really the answer to so much of what we see in government, which is that the inertia of process and forms that you have to fill out can get sticky. When we did the switch over, everybody who was on the utility company's default plan got switched over to the city's default. So a batch of folks in a seamless switch are already on this plan. However, some people who had been on a different plan, some of these third-party energy suppliers will come knock on doors, particularly of seniors, of communities that are multilingual communities promising cheaper rates when those are in fact predatory scams. So there's a whole batch of residents who we are trying to get in touch with to say, not only should you not be on these third-party suppliers, but even the default utility company's plan is not cheaper. And that's a message that needs to get out there. It is green and it is more stable. And because of that, because it's not tied to international markets, it's tied to local, clean, green energy, it is cheaper.
Is this another thing? Go to the city's website if you want more information.
Yeah, in fact, now is the best time to enroll because our rates are locked in through the end of 2023. So we will be cheaper for a significant period of time. It sometimes can take a couple weeks to process whether you are switching over into this plan. So the sooner you can get enrolled, the better. If you Google City of Boston CCE, Community Choice Electricity, I think it's something like boston.gov/CCE, but don't quote me on that. Community Choice Electricity Boston, you'll be able to enroll. Okay, let's take some calls for the mayor. Mayor Wu is with us until noon. Dan from Dorchester, you're first with Mayor Wu. Welcome.
Hey, Mayor Wu, I do have a quick question for you. I've noticed I have a yard in Dorchester, and I always use the yard waste pickup. But I noticed last time it went into the trash truck rather than into a compost truck. And I was just wondering if you knew if it was just going to the dump or if it was actually being used to compost in the city of Boston. I will sometimes peek from my window as well just to double check what is happening. And I have had that experience too. And so there are various contracts that are set up. Yard waste is an area where we can really see some reductions in the tonnage that's going to the landfills and therefore save money and all of that. The intention is that it will go to a different source, but sometimes in practice when we need to get that message out and make sure that's happening all the way out to those who are frontline employees who are sometimes very new or used to a different kind of contract. So it's helpful feedback and a reminder for me to keep that going. We have a couple different contracts running now between the curbside composting, food composting, recycling, and what happens with our waste management. But it's a key component to our green plans as well.
Dan, thanks for the call. By the way, our colleagues just checked. CommunityChoiceBoston.org is a website. 877-301-8970.
One more electricity question. Is this thing over in this vicinity energy, is this a big deal? I'm not really clear. Axios reported it this morning, Axios Boston, but I couldn't figure out what
I forgot
really
to answer that
means.
part of the question. So Vicinity is one of our local energy companies, and they supply steam to many of the largest downtown buildings. That's their footprint. They have become the first energy company in the country to have an electrification plan, to go fully electric. And they've now changed their technology so that instead of steam that is produced from natural gas and other fossil fuel sources, they are actually going to purchase and hook up renewable energy to power and create that steam. And they have all sorts of innovative ways, things that they've been learning from Europe and other markets about how to have that capacity be able to grow even more. It's a big deal because if you look at the scale of what we need to do to retrofit our buildings and change our how buildings are heated and cooled, that is the majority of where our emissions come from in Boston. And the vast majority of those emissions from buildings come from a few of the smallest big buildings. And so if we can get converted over
as quickly as possible. That'll be a huge
And there's
step.
no need for new infrastructure.
There's some hookups that they have to do on their end, but it's pretty seamless.
Yeah.
And then there are pipes that have to be laid for steam that they have proposals in a couple different areas as well.
That's
The
pretty
number
exciting.
to text or call the mayor is 877-301-8970. Sky, you're in Hyde Park. You're on with the mayor. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much. And Mayor Wu, I'm a big admirer of your programs, especially with the environment. I have worked with Paul Sutton for Urban Wilds, and we've created some open space. So I'm very big admirer. But I do have two questions in regards to the educational system in Boston. I don't understand how Medco works and why many of the Boston public school teachers' children go to Medco.
Why don't you put your second question out too,
Yep, I'll
Sky,
try
and
to
the
do
mayor
both.
will answer both. What's the other one?
Oh, okay, yep. Second one is having street signs on dangerous areas in Hyde Park seems to be impossible to facilitate.
Okay, got it.
Thanks, Sky.
Great questions. Thank you so much for your partnership on climate as well. Metco is a program that was born out of a recognition under segregated and deeply inequitable school environments that across the region there needed to be more options for students, particularly students of color. And in some ways, it has changed a little bit in terms of how the signups work and who has access, but fundamentally it's a program where Boston students of color can matriculate at suburban schools in nearby cities. And the goal was to ensure that there were pathways that would help kind of look at education regionally. Now, I feel pretty torn about Metco as well, right? My priority is to ensure that every single young person in our city has the best educational opportunities. And we do hear sometimes from students who have gone through Metco that although they appreciated having access to some of these much more well-resourced schools in wealthier communities, that the isolation that can bring, the long travel times that can involve, that takes a toll on our young people as well. And so I think we all acknowledge that in a perfect world, our Boston public schools and schools as close to where students' home communities and families' communities are need to be top-notch. And then we can talk about more options from there. But this is a program that has a history over many decades in the city, and they've changed up how they have allocated spots in the last few years, going from a first-come, first-served program to a lottery in recent years. But it is something where my job is to make sure that the Boston Public Schools are the best possible option to compete with every other option that is out there for families.
Before you answer the second question, Sky, thank you. I should know the answer to both these, so I'm embarrassed in advance. One, how is Jean McGuire, speaking of Metco? And two, have the person or people who stabbed her been caught?
Miss McGuire is recovering at home. She is just an amazing, amazing lady. Could name the specific details from yesterday, 5 years ago, and 50 years ago, and everything that she's done in raising so many of the young people in our city, having been involved with Metco. The investigation is still underway, so nothing has been public.
And the second question,
The second question, if you let us know specific locations, Scott, we would love to follow up. Would love to understand a little bit more about what you mean by dangerous locations. If it's a kind of slow down sign or speed bumps or other things, that's right in our wheelhouse of let us know.
Sky hung up, but he hung up. The lines are full, so if you tweet us at BOS Public Radio or email us at bprwgbh.org, we'll pass the information along to the mayor.
Mayor Wu, when we first had Andrea Campbell in here when she was the city council president, she's now, of course, the attorney general, first woman of color to be an attorney general first in that role. She talked a lot about the lack of urgency in the Boston schools, and I was talking about this yesterday with Paul Revel, a frequent guy that we have on, used to be the Secretary of Education. There's all this money from the pandemic, and there's endless stories about how kids, particularly kids from poverty, kids from color, have been really hurt by the pandemic, and the Boston public schools have a lot of those kids. And I don't understand, tutoring. it seems to be a big idea, and it's not happening. I'm thinking about those seniors that could be graduating in June. It sometimes seems there isn't any urgency, particularly in the story today about the parents upset about the toilets and the no running water. I mean, when the spokesman says progress takes time, that's the school department spokesperson, you say to yourself, well, really, how much time does it take to fix a toilet? So anyway, that's a long-winded question about the lack of urgency.
Yeah, this gnaws away at me. I was just looking back the other day because we had marked a year officially in this new office with our new administration, and even looking back a year ago, the pictures of my kids, how fast they've grown, how much taller they are in just 12 months, and all of our young people across the city, every year that we spend in planning or every mayoral term that goes by is another several generations of young people who are waiting and missing out on the type of services and opportunities that they deserve. And so we always have an approach of let's put out there the big vision, the groundbreaking, transformational systems change that we are aiming for, but make sure that we are making progress every single day. We are making progress in the Boston Public Schools. We are digging out from 3 of the most intense and stressful years for educators across the entire world. And that has left us with a lot of structural challenges that needed to be built back even before we could get to some of the other pieces. And so we're trying to do as much as possible. We had great news yesterday with 2 of our schools that had previously been in underperforming status now no longer in that and making strong improvements. The superintendent is creating new positions specifically focused on mentoring and being able to provide those extra supports. Every room that I'm in a business boardroom or a church basement or the Boston Public Library, I am pitching, please get involved with our young people, because the more that we have all hands on deck, the faster we can move on all these initiatives.
By the way, you can text questions to the mayor as well at 877-301-8970. George did. He said, will you have a significant say in the new head of the T? I think people know Steve Poptek's leaving, I think, January 3rd. And who would you recommend take the position, Mayor Wu?
I don't know that I'll have unfortunately, Boston still does not yet have our seat on the MBTA governance board. We are still very close and holding out hope for that legislation to go through. Boston residents deserve to have that kind of direct say. I have shared widely my thoughts about the need for someone to be able to hit the ground running. And what I've seen in the leadership positions that we've had to fill in our cabinet, it makes a world of difference when people know the field already, know the intricacies of the job, know the community. And so there are a couple different models of individuals who might represent different strengths in all those categories, and I hope we will see a robust but quick process because we really can't lose any more time.
You don't want to fill in a blank there. It seems like you do have a couple of people in mind.
I have some people in mind. I don't have any. I don't have a kind of firm recommendation, and even if I did, I probably should share it elsewhere.
I knew that. Lauren in Boston, you're on with the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. Hey there. Lauren.
Hi, I'm here. How are you?
Excellent.
Sorry about that.
You're on with the mayor.
Hi, Mayor Wu. I am a local mom in the South End and a part of a special group that overlooks the Friends of the South End Library. Just wanted to get your feelings on temporary plans now that we've gotten word that it looks like because of the catastrophic flood that happened in the library, there's going to be a closure and potential plan for starting anew or whatnot. And I wanted to get your take on it since we are a very heavily concentrated part of Boston that has a lot of low-income housing, a lot of young families, and there's just that need for public space.
Yeah, thank you for being involved with that group and that organization. I have spent a lot of time in that library over the years, having been a resident of the South End previously and living right nearby. So I know it's a hub for much more than just checking out books. As you mentioned, there was a flood that basically a pipe that had burst, and it happened on I forget if it was a Thursday or Friday night. And so essentially there wasn't a check into the basement until several days later, when then it was 9 feet of water that completely destroyed the mechanicals, the electrical, $1 million plus of damage. And so because this is also a library where we had been talking about major renovations for such a long time, it hasn't been fully renovated since it was built many years ago. There's a decision point of whether to put that significant temporary fix, which would likely still take a year and a half, 20 months, or to just go for the big renovation that might have been a couple years away, but accelerate that and make that happen. And so we had some conversations with you all and with many of the users of the library, and really want to, our library president, David Leonard here, who's hosting us at Copley, wanted to accelerate and just make it happen, to just minimize the amount of time that the library would be closed. We are looking into alternatives, whether it's a mobile van that can come drop off books, which could be used for many of our libraries that are under renovation, or to partner with other organizations. And so I understand that it's a big deal. Our Roslindale Library just reopened after several years of renovation, and it makes a big difference in the community in many ways.
By the way, Lauren, thank you.
Here's a nice one from Pat in the North End. You're going to like this one, Mayor Wu. She said, I walked through City Hall Plaza this morning. It looks great. Love there's a play space for kids already there enjoying the space. 2, I submitted a parking permit renewal online, received the new permit, and promptly lost it. Likely 3 out there by mistake. Visited parking office this morning. They were so helpful and understanding and friendly. I went in expecting to be hard, and it couldn't have been easier. Thank you, Mayor, for making even the small stuff work well.
Thank our city workers.
That?
They were
How's
amazing.
that?
So I will definitely pass on that feedback. We love to hear when things are going well.
Okay, before we take a break, which we have to do in a minute, how many days do you have left in your term?
I think it was 1139.
1,139. If you haven't heard before,
1139.
She has in her phone the numbers of days left, which is unbelievable to me. Number 2, Marjorie knows that the thing I hate most is rushing.
Yes.
You started this morning at this housing deal. You're going to fly out of here to go do this City Hall Plaza thing. Is that a problem for you? Do you schedule time in your day where you can just sit by yourself and think? I'm serious.
This has been the eternal question, because I am very much an introvert. And often I will find that by the time I get home, every single minute of my day has been in some sort of conversation, even if it wasn't a meeting with a group, an issue that needed attention, or a call that I could finally return with a few minutes of free time. So I sometimes will have to, and then the kids are bouncing around everywhere. So sometimes I'll just go in the room just to have 5 minutes of quiet by myself.
When you're home, you do
when
that?
I'm home, yeah.
How come you don't schedule? I know this is not my business, but why not?
No, I know.
Why don't you schedule
this is
during
the
day?
problem, right? That I need to just accept responsibility for my own inability to say no to things that I feel like I can make a difference in, and to recharge. And that's part of what I've been reflecting on at a year mark, is that we've been go, building our team, laying the foundation on so many issues, getting our dollars out the door, making a difference. But it has to be sustainable, and it has to be sustainable for the entire city workforce. So I need to model that a little more.
You can take a 1-minute break right now, Mayor Wu.
That's the voice of Michelle Wu. She's the mayor of Boston. She's going to be with us until noontime, taking our questions and yours. The number's 877-301-8970. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. Quick break, right back.
Support for GBH comes from you and the Museum of Russian Icons, presenting Artists for Ukraine, transforming ammo boxes into icons. 3 icons painted on the boards of ammunition boxes from combat zones in Ukraine. More at museumofrussianicons.org. And the Boston Philharmonic Youth Orchestra, with conductor Benjamin Zander, performing Strauss's tone poem Ein Heldenleben and Beethoven's Fifth Symphony at Symphony Hall November 20th at 3. Tickets at bostonphil.org. And Newbury Court, a full-service residential community in Concord, Massachusetts, for persons 62 or over, committed to creating an active, independent lifestyle. More at newburycourt.org or 978-369-5155. And Delta Dental of Massachusetts. Good oral health is known to protect you from heart disease, depression, and more. You can discover the connection between oral and overall health at expressyourhealthma.com. bostonpublic.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan. We're live from the Boston Public Library, as we are every Tuesday and Friday, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. And we are joined for this hour for a monthly visit, Mayor Michelle Wu for Ask the Mayor. You can give her a call or a text at 877-301-8970. The phone lines are full. The text lines are never full. Or if you're at the library, don't be shy. Mackenzie right over there, our coworker, will be happy to talk to you. If you've got a question you'd like to pose to the mayor, talk to Mackenzie and we'll see what happens. 877-301-8970.
Eleanor from Westwood, you are on with Mayor Michelle Wu. Go ahead.
You know she's not mayor of Westwood, Eleanor, right?
No, not the mayor of Westwood. No,
okay,
no, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask the mayor, I'm a long-time Boston resident, but now in Westwood for my older years. My grandchildren live with my daughter and her husband in Jamaica Plain, and the kids go to the Haley School, which is on American Legion Highway. Very old school that used to be, I believe, a bowling alley. Has no facilities at all. The school is really very, compared to the school that my kids went to when I was in Boston, which was the Trotter School, which is a beautiful school that was built in the late 60s, and they took advantage of that school, even though we lived in West Roxbury and bused them over there. It was during busing. But the school where my kids go, at the Haley, has nothing compared to the Trotter. I'm wondering why there aren't any new schools in Boston, anything compared to what the Trotter had in those years.
Thank you for bringing this up. We have so many beautiful school communities. I've been at the Haley a couple times recently, and last year they won a national award for the work that's happening in the community and culture building that they're doing in the school. But you're right that it is their play yard is an open space paved over. And a lot of our school communities don't have all of the pieces that we really should make sure our students have access to: science labs and outdoor learning space and green and sports facilities. So we have launched a major plan to renovate all of the school facilities across the board. This is basically flipping the timelines, whereas before, Boston Public Schools is stretched so thin doing a lot of things, their facilities department would maybe get one new school built every 5, 6, 7 years. We really need to see the opposite dynamic, where it's many new schools every single year in the pipeline. We're getting started. We've had to invest in more planning and design staff on the city side so we can help them with some of the facilities conversations while they focus on the academics and what we're building for in terms of the ideal nurturing environment for school buildings at the elementary school level or the high school level. And we have put $2 billion forward in the first phase of what we're calling our Green New Deal for Boston Public Schools, because it's basic issues like bathrooms being functional, to having the amount of square footage for projects and the kind of social and emotional supports that all of our young people need. So we are on top of this. There's a lot of moving pieces, but the goal is that by the end of this year, I think it was by the end of this fiscal year, which goes into a couple months into next calendar year, we will have a full assessment of the exact facilities condition of each one of our school buildings. Right now, we don't have a real-time measure of which boilers are in trouble, and it's kind of whatever gets elevated, we fix. So we need to have a much more professionalized facilities management program that we are working towards. And in the meantime, we're in design processes for many of our new schools. In the Rosendale area, for example, the Irving building, which is now a former middle school building that is no longer used, will be a space that several of our elementary schools will be able to grow into, which then will free up other real estate elsewhere, and we will have options that can kind of ripple out so that every community feels this benefit.
Eleanor, thank you very much for your call.
Mayor, well, here's a good question via Twitter. From Ian. How strange and counterproductive that Boston still doesn't have a seat on the MBTA governance board, as noted by you, Mayor Wu. Is that normal for other regional transit systems centered in major metro areas?
It really varies. I'm very jealous. There are some cities where they have control of major parts of their transit system. For example, they might break off the
bus and inner core subway system differently from commuter rail, which is much more of a suburban connector. But in Boston, since 2015, when we had Snowmageddon here and really saw how poorly prepared the MBTA was, there were some governance changes that then cut out cities from even having a voice on the budget. We used to have an indirect way where the local municipal advisory board would get a veto vote on the T's budget. That was changed to create a more specific governance board focused on the MBTA and not just under the larger Mass Department of Transportation, MassDOT umbrella. That focus has been really helpful to identify and focus on issues, but we should have a seat on the board.
Is that another one of those home rule legislative
We've
things?
gotten so close. In fact, the House and the Senate both voted to approve that and pass that. The governor then amended it and put some restrictions on it. That sent it back through another round of approvals and adoptions, and we were just like the last 5% of the way there. So we've come close, but hope to see it move.
Well, as soon as they finish their 5-month vacation, I'm sure they'll get right to it.
January,
now, Mayor Wu,
January 2nd, I think they're back.
They're
right?
back.
Isn't that-
Mayor Wu, can I ask you about two relationship issues? When you were with us, I think it was last month, you were asked about the pay raise that had been passed by the City Council. Your response was, the timing and scale concerns me. Either later that day or the next morning, you vetoed it. The City Council agreed to a more modest thing. Has that affected your relationship with them at all?
I don't think so. I mean, the way that our government is set up, of course, on the legislative side, we are meant to be a counterweight to each other, right? The legislative branch and the executive branch, one generates publicity and puts forward ideas and holds a platform for the public to testify and be part of decision making much more intimately. And then on one side, really keeping an eye on the realities of how the dollars meet with implementation and workforce and executing on all those details. But there are many ways in which the City Council and our administration are working on other things together, whether it was managing during the Orange Line shutdown and how collaborative everyone had to be to all hands on deck, getting Charlie cards out there and spreading the word. Just, again, making major announcements around home ownership in partnership with our counselors who've been so supportive of allocating the dollars in this way. So I'm grateful for their leadership, and it's just part of how this process works.
Speaking of how it works, when you do something like that, I know it's only been a year, particularly as a former city council or yourself, do you call either the president of the city council, Flynn?
Yes.
Do you notify them that you're going to
Yes.
be? Okay. One last relationship question. You made a comment on BUR a month or so ago about needing more state help at Mass and Cass. We read that to Governor Baker last time he was here, and I think it's fair to say, Marjorie, correct me if I'm wrong, that his head almost bounced off the ceiling. He was rather perturbed, and I know you got a long letter, I think a nanosecond after you made your comment from Health and Human Services Secretary Sutters saying all the things they've done, all the dollar committed. What's the fallout from that, and have you spoken to him about this after this contretemps?
I've sent some communications back. You know, it is what it is. I think we have different approaches in terms of proximity to the situation and therefore understanding of what the urgent needs are. This has also been a different dynamic because fairly quickly into my term as mayor, the state administrator, the governor and lieutenant governor announced they weren't running for re-election. And so it's just made it a little bit difficult knowing that there are going to be sweeping changes across personnel and approach at the state level. And so some of this is, I'm really excited to build with the governor-elect and lieutenant governor-elect and everyone that goes into the Healy-Driscoll administration. I think we see Mass and Cass differently. I am incredibly grateful for the funding that the state has put in, but the reality is that I will not be happy or satisfied until all of the people who are on our wait list who have come from outside of Boston and outside of the state in some cases have a smooth, humane, and effective system that they can be plugged into. We have seen amazing work over the last 12 months. We've seen transformations for dozens of individuals who've been able to access the housing that the city and in some cases the state has partnered on. But this needs to happen all across the state, and we need to see access to this kind of approach and the
outcomes that it produces, not just here in one city. It's more than one city can deal with.
Speaking of mass and cast, Steve from Boston has a question. Steve, you're on Boston Public Radio with the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. Hey, Steve.
Good morning, Jim, Marjorie, and Madam Mayor. Your elocution is wonderful, Madam Mayor, over the mass and cast problem. You've been in office for a year. Your elocution is wonderful. Your execution has been awful. It's a blight on the city, either treatment or incarceration. Why can't it be that easy?
Is that a mass and cast question, I assume?
I think I heard the question, which
Okay,
was
Thank
about
you, Steve.
approaches of treatment or incarceration. Why can't it be that easy? And I appreciate the play on words. I am always striving to do better on execution. Elocution, I just give up. I'm not. I think it's clear. I want to just be clear about where we are now versus a year ago, and therefore the scale of what we've learned and the limits that we have come to realize one city can take on. 1 year ago from today, there were hundreds of individuals many of whom had been living at Mass and Cass for 7 years in fortified structures, wood pallets, propane tanks, boards, and items draped over. Those were their full-time residences. There were diseases spreading through the area because of a massive rodent problem, no regular cleanings that could address that, and regular fires, fatalities, and much, much more. A year later, we have seen a reduction in the number of people who are there, although there are still many individuals who need treatment and help. We have 25 plus weekly cleanings, no longer have a rodent problem. 4 times a week, residents of the area or individuals who are unhoused and in the area completely shift to a different part of a different street. So there's a deep, deep street cleaning, and there may be tents that pop up temporarily, but they're taken down every other day or so. And we have teams that are coordinating every single day, checking in across all of our agencies at 8:45, looking at all of the areas across the entire city where we need to deploy services and treatment and property storage so that we can ensure that we don't develop into an encampment situation again anywhere in the city. And so it's not fixed by any means, but this has been a situation developing for the last 7 years since the Long Island Bridge came down, and even before that. We are now serving more people in the actual ways that they need to be served and treated than ever before in the last decade. And of the individuals who live in the nearly 200 low-threshold housing units that have been created, none of which had existed before, none of which still have been created outside the city of Boston, the vast majority, about 80%, have a housing plan now. A large percentage have identified rent or resource and are just waiting for an apartment to open up. 79 people have actually moved from tent to transitional housing all the way to permanent housing, holding down a job, and because of that stability and the case management that's been provided. A third of those individuals are receiving mental health supports and treatment. About half are receiving medication for opioid treatment. And these are numbers that are unheard of for someone who is living on the street. It is near impossible to stick to making it to your appointment on time or getting to treatment reliably. And so this is life-changing. We know this approach works, but we really need the state to help because there's still more than 150 people on our wait list who would benefit from having access to these spaces.
We should just say that we have a rule here. This is not just for Steve, anybody. We are thrilled that public officials like Michelle Wu choose to spend an hour of her time with you, constituents, and others. All we ask is that people be respectful. They can ask any question they choose, but respect is sort of the coin of the realm.
Okay, I'm going to ask a respectful question.
I hope
now.
you will, Marjorie.
I want to actually a two-part thing. I'm obsessed with civilian flaggers, have been for many years. But before I get to that of course involves the Boston Police. They were talking about this in the City Council. But what's happening with the contracts? I know that's a big issue. I think it's been they've been without a contract since I think 2020.
June of 2020.
Yeah.
Yep. And many of our city workers. So we came into this role a year ago.
every single one of our municipal bargaining units contracts was expired. I mean, that has never happened before in a transition. And so for almost 45 contracts needing to be negotiated from
45.
Our police to teachers to janitors to librarians. And so now we have the majority of our workforce under contract again, but our public safety unions are one of the remaining sets of contracts. We've been at the table with our patrolmen, patrol officers, and there are different issues at play. I would like to see a contract that does affirm, as the union has been pushing for, provisions around wellness and mental health and sustainability for our officers, along with parameters that will ensure accountability for overtime. And in this moment, we hear all the time that it's difficult to meet the needs for having officers walking in the streets or capacity to meet situations on our streets that might require some oversight or law enforcement help. At the same time, as we're talking about the staffing challenges, more than 100 officers have been out on medical leave for over a year, who are still, according to by the contract, receiving pay for their jobs while someone else is having to be paid to replace the roles that they're no longer able to act out every day. And there are just some places where we could see a big difference in freeing up our officers and the staffing levels to do what BPD does best and really well. And that's what I want to see come out in the contract. We've had a couple public conversations about this. We're trying to bring transparency so people understand the importance of, if we want to talk about police reform, it is in fact about minutia of legal language that really can make a difference there.
The union had said you're stopped negotiating.
That is not our characterization of the situation. I know, part of the process is reaching the point of frustration so that we can break through and keep it. We are still at it right now, but should it come down to it, we will, hold firm to what we've heard from the public and residents that they want to see in terms of changes that are baked in here.
So I just want to get to the flaggers. I did not realize that between 35% and 50%, according to this editorial of the Globe, of the flaggers needed, or that the cops aren't able to fill those jobs. I know Larry Calderon, he's head of the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, was arguing with the city council because some on the city council think it'd be a great idea to give these jobs to civilians because they're $50 an hour, which is a pretty good pay. I know you have to go through the bargaining table and there may be bigger fish to fry, but I'm wondering in general, how do you feel about this? I mean, I go by Commonwealth Avenue and Warren Street every day going to work, and there's construction workers out doing the flagging, and they seem to be doing a fine job there. What do you think?
So this is an item that has been part of our discussions at the table as well in terms of the collective bargaining process. It is clear that tens of thousands of requests for details for flaggers go unfilled because of capacity issues, and it's also clear that there are different categories of how dangerous a situation might be. So right now it is the same treatment, the same pay scale for a small, basically drive around a small disruption on a very quiet residential street as it is in the middle of a five-way intersection with large vehicles and very difficult sight lines. And so I think separating out some of the priority levels and opening that up so that we can see more of these positions filled would make a big difference. I will note these are not City of Boston funds that are used. Right. It's the construction companies or those who are requesting the detail pay. But the way that it works in reality is that the Boston Police Department pays the officers who are doing details for their time, and then the department gets reimbursed by the companies. Most of the time that happens, but there's a significant cost that comes to the system that we have and who gets the ability to have the details, how we chase down how much of our effort goes to chasing down the reimbursement process, and therefore how much money is going out the door that could be used for other purposes. And so there are a lot of components of this that we need to tighten up through the bargaining process.
You should just know Marjorie was not transparent. She spent every month, once a month, when Deval Patrick came in, bludgeoning this guy about civilian flaggers. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, we're the only
for
state.
4 years?
We're the only state in the country
that
still does it this way.
Can we go on a softer topic for a second? Are you cooking for Thanksgiving? What's the deal?
Okay, we.
I think this woman should get a
the
break.
longest
That's what I
pause
think.
all day. And
I think you should do
question.
takeout, Mayor Wu.
My confession to the world is that several years ago in my family, we moved away from turkey. I never grew up having turkey for Thanksgiving. In some Asian families, they believe it is dry and anyway. So we always had ham.
Some
anyway.
non-Asian families feel the same way. By the way,
to douse it in
that
gravy.
was my immigrant parents' view of it. That it takes too long, doesn't taste good, too dry. Anyway, we did ham, but we moved to Thanks Sushi Giving several years ago locally. So I still, my in-laws, there's still lots of turkey that I get. We've already started. We had turkey yesterday with seniors at Thanksgiving lunch at the Kroc Center. So we celebrate Thanksgiving for a good month straight here in Boston. But on Thanksgiving Day, I'm happy to have no cleanup whatsoever.
So you buy it, you don't make it.
That's
sushi,
right.
you do.
Yes.
Speaking of holidays, Clara, we never got to Clara from Alston. My apologies. She wants to know his first night's coming back.
Yes.
Oh, well, that takes care of that, Clara.
Although,
Why are you hesitating?
I'm pretty sure. I have not had planning conversations with the team yet about it, but it's been an important initiative and one that brings a lot of economic activity to the city. We have been a little bit tied up in terms of big events happening in the colder months. We've been busy preparing for the Earthshot Awards coming to Boston with the Prince and Princess of Wales celebrating climate leadership with an event in our city. So that'll be in the next couple of weeks.
I'm very excited about that. Jim has no use for any of these royals. He always ridicules me.
Well, can you give us 30 seconds on this deal? I mean, the fear was that they were not coming, right? Once he was elevated up the hierarchy of the monarchy
They will be
deal.
here. Yes.
What's happening with him? Do you know?
So last year, the Prince William kicked off what he calls the Earthshot Awards, which is modeled after President Kennedy's Moonshot Challenge, that we can do hard and impossible things. And their focus is to basically create the Oscars of climate awards. They give out prizes to celebrate cutting-edge technology in a couple different categories. Last year was the first year it happened in London. And then they're going to take it around the world for 10 years. So this is their first non-UK spot. They've chosen the city of Boston to pay homage to President Kennedy and that original inspiration, and also to highlight the climate work that is happening here and the potential that we have to really change what's possible here in Boston.
Marjorie would like to have Kate on the show. Can you help us out or what? I mean, to be just getting to the point
No,
here.
I know. I just don't. I mean,
a
I'm
little
watching The
embarrassed
Crown,
now.
I must admit. Although it's not so good now because they got the children there. And you feel bad for the children because they're about to lose their mother. So it's kind of
fine.
ruined the fun.
So what'd you call
of
the thing
The
again?
Crown.
Thanks Sushi Giving? Is that what you call it?
Yes.
Thanks. I love that.
Yeah.
Mayor, well, we really appreciate your time, and everybody does. We really appreciate your being here. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for these fabulous things.
Nice to
Yeah,
see
they
everyone.
were. What's the name of the place again?
Le Foyer in Mattapan.
Le Foyer in Mattapan. Absolutely delicious. Thank you very much for being here, Mayor. We really appreciate it. Coming up, after the new news, GBH's Callie Crossley is here. We'll talk about Twitter's travails, which get bigger every day, and, of course, the massive debate about which kind of Thanksgiving pumpkin pie to have or sweet potato pie. How do you feel about sweet potato versus pumpkin pie? Why have I got the wrong pies? Oh, she's making a face at me over there. Okay, whatever. We're going to talk about pies on Thanksgiving and a bunch of other things. Callie Crossley is next. You're listening to 89.7 GBH, Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News.
Funding for our programs comes from you and Boston Ballet, presenting The Nutcracker. Dare to dream big with New England's favorite holiday tradition. You can gather with family and friends to see it live at the Citizens Bank Opera House starting November 25th. Tickets at bostonballet.org. Experience the timeless and genre-defying influence of Joni Mitchell's artistry as it's celebrated with an all-star lineup on Next at the Kennedy Center, a Joni Mitchell songbook, tonight at 9 on GBH2.
I'm reporter Adam Riley, and you and I are listening to 89.7 WGBH, WGBH HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. Boston's local NPR.
Ahead on Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library, CNN is changing its New Year's Eve plans. Anchors can no longer get plastered on camera unless they're Anderson Cooper, of course. Media maven Sue O'Connell joins us to discuss this and Nancy Pelosi's long legacy in the House. Then, Hot Off Flower Bakery and Cafe, earning the best cinnamon roll in every state, Chef Joanne Chang is here to share her tips and tricks for holiday cooking.
Then it's another Live Music Friday at the Boston Public Library, this time with Ray Angry, pianist for the Roots, and Jonathan McPhee, music director for the Lexington Symphony Orchestra. We'll hear some music from Ray and discuss his first symphony, Black Athena-Power, at the Lexington Symphony Orchestra. Then we'll open up the phone lines to hear your thoughts on Thanksgiving desserts. This is going to be a real smackdown, Jim. Are you a die-hard at-home baker, or is store-bought just fine? And would you rather have pumpkin, sweet potato, or pecan pie? And is it pecan or pecan? All that ahead on Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. North Korea has test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile over strong objections from the U.S. and its allies. Vice President Kamala Harris in Thailand for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit sought to reassure leaders of Southeast Asian nations that the U.S. remains committed to the region. She also condemned the latest missile launch, Pyongyang's second such launch in days.
We strongly condemn these actions, and we again call for North Korea to stop further unlawful, destabilizing acts.
The defense minister of Japan says the missile North Korea launched today had the capability to reach the U.S. mainland. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, says 10 million people in his country are without power as a result of Russian airstrikes. NPR's Greg Myrie says Russian attacks this week have been some of the most intense since Russian forces invaded Ukraine nearly 9 months ago.
In his nightly video address, President Zelensky says the regions hardest hit by electricity outages stretch from the capital Kyiv in the north to the coastal city of Odessa in the south. A leading private energy company is warning Kyiv residents that electricity could soon go out for days at a time. Most cuts now tend to last for several hours. The blackouts have also disrupted heating and water supplies as winter sets in. Temperatures in Kyiv are dipping below freezing at night, and the city has received its first dusting of snow this season. Greg Myrie, NPR News, Kyiv.
People in western New York are bracing for more than 4 feet of snow by tonight. Emily Watkins of member station WBFO says Buffalo is preparing for the worst of it.
This week marks 8 years since Buffalo's last extreme snowstorm, which claimed the lives of 14 people and piled 88 inches of snow on some suburbs. This storm is presenting its own challenges, with the snow falling much more rapidly than normal in urban areas. Erie County Deputy Commissioner of Public Works, Karen Hoke.
When we're looking at over 4 inches coming down per hour, that can present some significant challenges.
The interstate from Rochester to Pennsylvania is currently closed to commercial traffic. Many flights are canceled and schools are closed. For NPR News, I'm Emily Watkins in Buffalo.
The NFL is moving Sunday's Buffalo Bills home game against the Cleveland Browns to Detroit because of the heavy snow. The game will be played at the Lions' home stadium, Ford Field. U.S. stocks this hour mixed. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 156 points, roughly 0.5%. It's at 33,703. The Nasdaq Composite Index is down 15 points, and the S&P 500 is up 9. This is NPR News.
The latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro in Brookline this Friday. Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton has endorsed Hakeem Jeffries for Minority Leader of the U.S. House of Representatives. In a statement released this morning, Moulton said Jeffries is what they need as a leader for their party. Moulton adds that he has deep respect for Jeffries and he represents a new generation of leadership in Washington. Meanwhile, Massachusetts Congresswoman Catherine Clark has announced her candidacy for the position of Democratic Whip. GBH Radio's Adam Riley has more on what comes next.
Clark is currently Assistant Speaker. If she becomes whip, she'll be the second highest Democrat in House leadership in the next session, in which Republicans will control the chamber, ranking only behind the new Minority Leader. Clark's bid comes as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Majority Leader Steny Hoyer step aside, with Pelosi saying it's time for a new generation to take the reins. I'm Adam Riley, GBH News 89.7.
How big is the Harvard-Yale football rivalry? Well, the big game is simply called The Game. And tomorrow, most Harvard students will experience The Game at Harvard Stadium for the first time when it returns for its 138th playing. The Game hasn't been played on Harvard turf in 6 years. In 2020, The Game was canceled due to the pandemic, and the 2018 game was hosted by Harvard, but that game was played at Fenway Park. And the weather is great for tomorrow's game. The forecast calls for a bright and sunny day with temperatures in the mid-40s. Elsewhere in sports, Celtics in New Orleans tonight. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
It's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live, as we do every Tuesday and every Friday, from the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again.
Hey there. I can't imagine a better place to spend a Friday afternoon than here, by the way. I love it. A little bit later in the day, Joanne Chang, legendary baker, is going to join us, obviously from Flour and from Myers and Chang. And we just heard a subdued, because they had to be quiet, a little bit of Ray Angry, who's going to play for us.
It's going to be great.
In advance of this thing with the Lexington Symphony Orchestra. I mean, it's really, it's going to be an exciting afternoon, starting with a fairly exciting colleague of ours. That'd be Callie Crossley. Callie is the host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, which you can catch Sunday nights right here on 89.7 at 6. She's also the host of Basic Black. That airs Friday at 7:30, and can hear her Callie commentaries, one of which, well, we're going to talk about, on Mondays for GBH's Morning Edition. Hello, Callie Crossley.
Hello.
Hello, Callie Crossley.
Hello.
So the lead on the CNN story about Twitter is death is in the air on Twitter. Last night, the platform RIP, rest in peace, Twitter was the top trend worldwide. So are you in the Twitterverse, and what do you think is going to happen?
No, well, I got the level of emotion about its dying last night from my niece, who said, Black Twitter is going to be dead tonight. Oh, my God. And I said, wow, this is really intense. I think, well, first of all, I just responded to how he's handled the staff and all of that. So I couldn't even get to the fact that the platform itself will not be either there or anything close to what it used to be. And it's kind of hard to imagine, because it's always been there, and it's become cultural now. It's not even just a platform, it's part of the culture.
Yeah.
But obviously people are looking to go elsewhere.
Well, part of the reason it may not be there is because he treats his workers like crap, including saying, tell me you're going to work like dogs 24 hours a day.
Extremely hardcore.
In 24 hours, you're out of here. And to their credit, a lot of them are out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, on her way out, as the mayor was saying hello to Callie, she told us, we should have asked her this, but I didn't know, she has opened an account on Mastodon, which is, an alternative for a lot of people. It's only got 1 million or so people there, as opposed to 240 million on Twitter. A lot of people are making that move. We asked her if she was leaving Twitter to make that move, and she didn't say yes, but it sounds like that's the goal.
Well, and at our own place, our internet specialist, Lisa Williams, is urging us to think about Mastodon. So, we'll see if that gets the turnover as something to admire.
Well, there was a great line in this CNN piece about Twitter's travails, and it said that some of the people that were leaving said they could no longer work for, quote, a product poisoned from the inside and out. And those were some of the top people that just said, forget it, they were leaving.
Well, the other line was, as one person said, why would I work like this to make this rich guy richer and at the detriment of my own family and health?
Yeah.
I mean, hello, that's a good question.
Can I speak as nicely as I can? Does this guy sound like the biggest a-hole
Yes.
of all time? And you wonder, how is he the richest man in the world when he treats people like, thank all three of you for agreeing. We appreciate it. I mean,
I don't
really
understand it either. And did he treat his employees at Tesla the same way?
From what I understand, not terribly well, actually.
But so that he's got to be paying them a lot then. Something has got to give because it doesn't make any sense. If people are as creative as some of these engineers are at Twitter and certainly at Tesla, you have other options.
I think the key sign will be when he switches to Mastodon, we will know that there is a serious future problem there at Twitter. We're talking to Callie Crossley.
So, Callie Crossley, we talked a lot about Michelle Obama's last book. Have you started the new book yet?
I
Telling
have
us how to
not.
cope. I'm dying to get that because I think she reads it again so you can listen to it
Yeah.
on audiobooks. But she's talking about something we talked about before. And she says that when she was First Lady, Americans were not ready for her natural hair.
Yeah, that she would have worn braids,
Yeah.
but she knew that would just set off all kinds of other stuff, so she didn't do it because it was just too much. But she's accustomed to having to straighten her hair for corporate America. If any of this sounds familiar, it's part of the echoing around the Crown Act,
Yep.
which we have passed here and is now a federal law. But this is the exact kind of issues that a lot of African American women and certainly other women that have similar kinds of natural hair have had to deal with. And so I think listen, first of all, she's talking about this stuff because she can say whatever she wants now. She was forbidden for saying all of that, and I appreciate it. And I've seen her a couple times since leaving the White House with braids, and now she's on tour. And she looks gorgeous. I mean, she looks gorgeous.
Here's what she
anyway.
said in her own words. She was talking to Ellen DeGeneres about this very topic, about her book, and about the whole issue of wearing her hair naturally. And here's what Michelle Obama had to say.
As black women, we deal with it. The whole thing about, do you show up with your natural hair, you know? As First Lady, I did not wear braids. The first black. I just said, we got to ease up on the people. You know, it's just like, because I thought about it. I was like, it would be easier. Nope, they're not ready.
I think the question, I know on all the three of our minds at least, is when she announces for the presidency in 2024, will she wear braids? You know, I'm looking at Sue O'Connell. You know who also had this issue? LaToya Edwards. It was a big story in our friend, the great newswoman.
Oh, my God.
Over there.
She
and by
looked
the way,
great.
not only did she look great, but if I recall, was it not the most viewed Globe story of the year?
Yeah.
When they were reviewing the top 10 stories, people's interest in the topic and LaToya telling her own story was right there in the top 10. So it was pretty...
So, I mean, this happens all the time, hence the Crown Act. But here we are. So I'm glad that she spoke up about it and just reminded people some of the sacrifices she had to make personally just to keep the peace.
Her new book, by the way, is The Light We Carry, Overcoming in Uncertain Times, with advice about how to deal with these crazy times. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
You know, can I say one more thing about her, one of the many things I admire about Michelle Obama? During the break, the three of us were talking about Michelle Wu after she left. And I was saying, one of the things I really like about it is not a policy thing, so I'm not violating any standard. She is really open. I mean, there's almost nothing you ask her about her work or her life, even if it's not going to be an answer that's going to accrue to her benefit, that she will not directly answer. And one of the great things about Michelle Obama, she is so open and so raw and so, I think in an attempt not only to free herself, but also to help everybody else in this world who is screwed up. You really, I mean, I admire her so much. It's just...
Callie and I were talking about that, too. Michelle Wu is quite unflappable.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would feel about people outside my house every morning with my children inside, even if it doesn't start till 9 o'clock. And we've been to events where she's been at, that there have been large groups of firefighters, who are upset about vaccines and other people who are still upset about vaccines. It's kind of intimidating.
Well, but I want to say, though, we emceed the event right in last February. There was that winter walk on homelessness. And while there were a ton of firefighters, they were totally respectful. They did not interrupt her. They were lined up.
Their signs, woo Burns firefighters.
Well,
I didn't
they
think
didn't
that was
interrupt
particularly...
anything she had to say. I mean,
They all turned their back on her because she wanted them to get vaccinated.
I hear you. They didn't interrupt her. And I'm not, I hear the house stuff, particularly with kids, but they didn't interrupt her. So can we go to a lighter topic if we can here?
Sure.
Apparently, Mariah Carey is not going to be the queen of Christmas.
I literally, on our news editorial meeting, I gasped with horror.
What, that she wasn't or that she might be?
No, she's supposed to be, and then they wouldn't give her the trademark. What's going on
She's
there?
supposed to be?
Yeah, of course she's the queen of Christmas.
We have had Darlene Love on this show,
Well,
who is
I
one of the
love her.
greats of
I
all
love
time.
her.
She's
Yeah.
not crazy about that.
Well,
Because she is the queen of Christmas.
Well, I don't know about that. I think we could have a discussion about it. I love Darlene Love, but listen, when you have a song, come on now, that is blown up a billion
Come on
times
now.
over.
Exactly.
What are we talking about? I mean, her song is so big that she has to do those little ads that say, "Not yet, don't sing it yet, people. The season is not here." Come on, she's the queen of Christmas.
She's the queen of Christmas, and not only has the song got great longevity.
Yeah.
1994 it came out, right?
Yeah.
And just in 2020, it was the #1 hit in the UK. So, like, how does that never happens?
That
Isn't it a
never
song
happens.
that was huge, like, for 20 years? I mean, that's really something. And, of course, the movie that a lot of my children hate, but I watch every year.
Love
Actually.
Oh, come on, that's
yeah,
good.
I love it.
One of the
I
best
love
movies
it.
ever
I know.
made.
It is.
Yeah, they
It's
think
excellent.
it's
I don't
sappy
care.
and
he's
sexist.
being funny about it, but it's really
I'm not.
good.
I love it. No, I'm not. I love that.
Okay.
Totally love
Yeah.
it.
I love it. It's
You know
really
what?
good.
I knew my daughter was marrying the right
Stop
guy.
shaking your head, Sue.
When he said he loved it too. You don't like it? Okay.
So
He does. He
let me
watches it every
explain
year.
how this radio
Really
thing works.
sappy.
You need a mic to talk on the radio.
Okay.
Capiche? You understand what I'm talking about here?
Yeah.
In any case.
Now, the other thing that...
By the way, I believe the biggest selling single of all time, ever, until recently, was Bing Crosby doing White Christmas or something.
Yeah.
And this is a serious question. We found out long after that he was beating up his kids. Did his popularity wane as a result, I hope? Did Bing Crosby
I don't think so. I don't think people stopped listening to his White Christmas.
But it's
Maybe
nowhere
because he was,
close to...
No, it is nowhere
okay.
close.
Maybe because he was so old. You think that was it?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
was never a big fan of that because I don't like snow, and then that whole White Christmas thing.
We got it. Okay, that's a very
So
interesting
Jim
point.
didn't want to talk about this, but we're going to talk about it anyway because I'm excited about it. Naomi Biden is the granddaughter of Joe Biden, and they're going to have a White House wedding.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of exciting. We've had a few of them before.
Yeah.
Tricia Nixon way back when she
This'll
got
be the
married at the
19th.
White House. That's
Yeah.
right. So are we going to? And
They're not broadcasting it or anything, so we won't
No.
find
But
out.
we'll get pictures of the dress
Yeah.
and all that, and you have to decide where you're going to get married in the White House. Is it going to be the Rose Garden? Is it going to be inside?
South Lawn.
She's South Lawn first time.
She's South
Even
Lawn.
I know
exactly
that.
right.
Yeah,
Yep, she
so-
is.
Why do we care about this again? I missed this. Why do we
Because-
care about
because
this?
I like
I'll give you a
weddings.
reason.
Oh, please do.
Because probably your girlfriend, Michelle Obama, is going to be there. Why? Because what's her name, Rule, who is the mother of Naomi, her other daughter is best friends with Karen, with the Rule's other daughter. So anyway, they're all very
there's an
close.
Obama
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
a close
Well, that's
there.
a good enough
She's the
reason.
daughter
There
of
you go.
Hunter
Hunter
Biden,
Biden,
of
who's
course.
gonna be
So it's good
investigated
that she's getting
starting
married
tomorrow.
before the House is in office because they're going to be
Exactly.
raking him over the coals. That's one of their first orders of business is to see what Hunter Biden was doing on his laptop and
They
whether
probably
he was.
would have passed a resolution to say she couldn't get married there.
I know.
You're
I know.
laughing.
I know.
I'm
It's going
not
to be like
laughing.
Benghazi.
Yeah.
I mean, how many
Yeah.
hearings are going to get out of Hunter Biden? Probably 20.
Yeah,
By the way,
at least.
do you know, I know Jim Jordan is one of our least favorite people. It's hard to list who's the least favorite amongst the House members, but particularly since he seemed to have gotten away with, I would argue, crimes, even potentially at Ohio State with the scandal with the wrestling team. They had a majority for about 15 seconds
I know.
before he takes to a mic to say to the American people, here's what we're going to spend our time doing.
Right.
And the first thing he lists is investigating Hunter Biden. And maybe it merits some investigation, but when they're always talking about how Joe Biden talking about inflation or the economy, right out of the box,
Yeah.
we're going to be hauling in
Well-
Hunter Biden to talk to him about his relationship with big companies and potentially
In
his
China.
father's. I mean, it's really...
I mean, they're alleging crimes.
Well,
They're
Ukraine,
alleging,
too, by the way.
Right, they're alleging tax crimes and some other things. But you know what?
But the former president has tax crimes that they never investigated.
Well, exactly. But the DOJ is already
Beautifully
investigating the
put.
FBI.
Yeah.
But the thing about when you ask for specifics, what were the tax crimes and what were the other crimes? No one seems to. It's kind of like asking like election denial, where was the state that it would have made a difference if there was any, or can you detail it? So maybe they will find something. But so far they've been looking for a long time. We don't exactly have the details.
Can I make a recommendation, speaking
Yes,
of
Jim.
weddings at the White House, since you went ahead with the discussion?
Tiffany got married at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, do you know who got married at the White House who is not a relative of a president? He was on our show right after he did. Pete Souza.
Oh,
One of
that's
the
right, the
greatest
photographer.
From either
Yes.
South
That's
Dartmouth
true.
or North,
Yep.
whatever the hell he is, on
That's
the South
true.
Shore there.
Yeah.
One of the greatest presidential
Yeah,
photographers of all
right,
time,
that's
obviously
true.
of Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, when he was telling us about it, did Obama preside?
He was there.
He
for
was.
sure.
I know he was
don't
there.
know if he presided or
But
not.
this guy, if you haven't seen this guy's books,
It's
talk
really
about
good.
intimate picture
Really
of
good.
an incredible
Yeah.
family, speaking
Really.
of Michelle.
Yeah.
Check out Pete Souza, S-O-U-Z-A, again, a local guy from Dartmouth or one of those Dartmouths or that kind of thing.
And I think former President Obama had something to do with their coming together. His
I think
wife.
that's right,
Yeah,
too,
right.
actually. You know, since we, one of the things that Marjorie didn't want us to talk about because we were going to talk about the wedding, but now we have time to fit it in. There's a lot of, on Saturday is the wedding.
Right.
That's tomorrow. On Sunday, Joe Biden turns 80. And I know people get really angry when we have this conversation. He's just too old. I mean, and this is not to, his achievements have been colossal. Why can't we have an open and honest conversation in this country about how old is too old? Marjorie, I want you to know this morning, we're going to talk about Nancy Pelosi with Sue in a few minutes. Marjorie, just to get me aggravated because she knows how to do it, she texts me and Jamie and she says, Jim, I know you can't stand Nancy Pelosi. I admire her as much as any politician ever.
Yeah.
I don't like octogenarians leading the whole damn government.
Well, she's done a pretty damn good job, hasn't she?
I just said she did a wonderful job, didn't I?
Yeah.
And you did aggravate me, as is obvious right now,
Yeah, that's
isn't
right.
it?
Jim gets very aggravated.
Okay, having
about
said
it.
that, what do you think about? I mean, and by the way, Trump, should he win, God forbid,
Right.
in his first term, he'd be 80.
Right.
Grassley from Iowa just won re-election
I know.
at 89 years
89.
old.
That
The
was
whole
interesting.
leadership team. I love Jim Clyburn, by the way, but Clyburn,
Yes.
Hoyer,
Right.
and Pelosi were all in
They've
their
done the
80s.
right. They've done the right thing. They're stepping
Okay,
aside.
fine. Finally, what do you think about this 80 deal?
Well, first of all, let's go back to talk about succession, which I think should have been on the minds of all of them. And I'm not certain that is something that has been formally instituted because wasn't everybody waiting for her to say Hakeem Jeffers is my
Yes,
guy?
yes.
And that didn't really
Well, she
happen.
didn't say it, but that's what the word was last night.
But
With
she didn't say
Catherine
it.
Clark as the
But
number
she didn't
two.
say
but
it.
she
I
didn't
understand that. So I'm just saying that if you know how old you are in those positions, I think it's incumbent upon all of those people to have some line of succession or start thinking about it and articulating it, that, I'm not holding this seat forever. The Grassley thing kind of throws me way off because I think that's just familiarity. Those voters know him. They have appreciated what he's done, and they want to see him return. And that's that. And they have to know that that's a dicey proposition, and they've just decided to roll the dice with that.
By the way, I have to say, I have to apologize. I made a mistake. When we were talking about age, you weren't here that day, and we're talking about how Strom Thurmond was 100 when he was in the Senate from South Carolina. And Marjorie and I said when he was 100, he married a 20-year-old. And I have to apologize. She was like a 40-year-old.
Okay.
So she was only 60 years
That's
younger
right.
than
Yes.
he was. Did they have a kid? I can't remember.
I don't know. I didn't follow it as
Well,
closely
that
as I
was
should
her
have.
choice, Jim.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. That was her choice. That's
She
right.
That was her
found him
choice.
attractive in some kind of way.
Yes.
Not my favorite guy, but okay.
Do we want to talk about the most important thing?
Well, the thing we do every year with Callie, we should do it right now.
Yes. Okay. You wrote a brilliant piece about the correct pies that we should all be eating at Christmas time, and there's a little north-south thing going on here.
That's true.
Please explain, Callie Crossley.
Well, the correct pie is sweet potato pie. And just as an aside, since I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, which is the place where real barbecue comes from.
Absolutely.
The correct barbecue is made with baby back ribs. Okay? That's it. Just to get
hostility
everything
here,
on
I'd
the
say.
table correctly. So it's sweet potato pie, period. That's it. And so you people up here love potato. The other thing, the
Pumpkin, we call it. Pumpkin.
And that's okay, but it just really doesn't have the same sumptuousness as sweet potato pie, in my humble opinion.
You know what I learned this morning in anticipation of you coming, which I'm sure you knew? Sweet potatoes are of the morning glory family, whatever that means.
I did not know
Pumpkin is a fruit.
Yes.
So what does that have to do with anything?
Well, for one thing, it's very hard, just from a practical standpoint, to grow pumpkins in the South.
Oh, it is?
So that was one reason why the people who were doing the cooking, those would be enslaved African Americans, ended up cooking sweet potatoes they could more easily grow south. Then it became a cultural thing for folks of color. And then when the Great Migration, this is actually a Great Migration story, actually, if you want to know it. So when enslaved folks from the South then dispersed, as they did in the Great Migration, to the West, to Chicago, where a lot of my dad's people went to all over, they took this cultural piece with them, which is why across the country, even here in Boston, Black people will be eating sweet potato pie.
Yeah, well, it's a custardy thing that is really nice with the sweet potato pie. And I have to say, I went to Memphis a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And you were so right. It is like night and day.
Thank
the
you.
cornbread is totally different.
What
the
do you know
ribs
about
are
barbecue?
I don't know anything about
Shit.
barbecue. I just know it tasted better.
Yeah.
And it's the whole experience.
That's
You
correct.
get the cornbread. You get the what do you call the green that everybody
Collard greens.
Collard greens. Thank you very much.
What do you call the green?
I forget. But anyway,
Marjorie's an expert on these
it was
issues.
just a whole
And the meat
different
thing
experience.
with the fire,
Yeah.
with the
That's right.
whatever.
And you had baby back ribs.
I
'cause
had
that is
baby back
correct.
ribs. That is correct. And I went to the hotel with the ducks
Yes.
in the middle of the
The Peabody
hotel.
Hotel.
Yes, and I went to the place
It's like
where
a
you
private
can
conversation.
dance
You
like
two are having
American
or what?
Bandstand. The place, what do you call it? The Sticks place? Is that
What
the
are you
place
doing?
where all the great music? I mean, and it's an unbelievable.
Jim's being left out of this
Maybe you should just call her after the show and have this
I was just going to say,
conversation.
I mean, Memphis is a pretty neat place.
But food-wise, I have to say, it's quite good, and we know how to do that. So
Well,
that's-
there's going to be a pretty good pie maker here in about 20
yeah.
minutes. Joanne Chang is
is
going to join
good.
us. Only America's
question.
top baker, according
She
to
is.
James Beard. We'll get her take on it.
I think she's a great baker.
She is a fabulous
Yeah,
baker.
okay.
So what are you doing this weekend there, Callie Crossley?
We are looking at the 5th anniversary of Me Too, and we're doing it against the backdrop of Harvey Weinstein's second sex crimes trial, talking about how far the movement has come, the fact that he probably wouldn't be on trial without that movement, and what is the work that still needs to be done. And it's a really powerful conversation with folks who are in the arena of dealing with sex crimes and sexual harassment in the workplace, and they just have a lot of powerful things to say. And the second half of the show is with Fabiola Mendez, who went to Berkeley, and because of her going to Berkeley and her interest in an instrument called the cuatro, which is from Puerto Rico, they're now, other students can now study it. Nobody else did. She was the first person to study it. She's an artist in residence with the Boston Landmarks Orchestra, but more than that, she's actually a cultural phenomenon in the use of this instrument, and it's gorgeous. We have so much of her work that we're listening to, and we're talking about it in deep ways.
Sounds great.
Some people who might not know it, a piece of the cuatro is being used in one of the Bad Bunny songs. But
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Before you go, you reminded me, but when you're talking about Me Too, She Said is coming out today.
Yes, that's
the
right.
movie based on the New York Times reporting of two brilliant
I really wanna
reporters.
see.
I really
do
want to
too.
see it too.
Yeah.
It didn't get fantastic
Not
reviews.
fantastic.
It said it wasn't as good as All the President's Men or
Spotlight.
But those were like, Spotlight won the Academy Award for Best Picture, so it doesn't
Should
have
have.
to be quite in that league to be
But
effective.
you know,
I
I
don't
just
think.
realized when I thought of She Said, we forgot to ask you. Last week you hadn't
Yeah.
seen Black Panther. You said you were going to see Black Panther.
I saw
Can
it.
you give us a 60-second review?
It was fabulous, and I think that Ryan Coogler, who's the director, the opening is so powerful that after I saw the opening, my nephew and I looked at each other. I said, he could have just gone home after that and said, you people do the rest of it. I mean, he really managed to deal with the grief of the cast, the grief of the viewers about the loss of Chadwick, and really change that story, move it and advance the story. And Namor, the other character, is so great to bring in that whole Mexican influence. And the Ruth Carter has outdone herself, and Angela Bassett is a wonder. It is really good. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and we were all like, oh my God, my nephew and I, how are we going to make it? It just flew by.
Great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do they have an intermission?
No, ma'am.
Wow, 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Callie, it's good to see
Callie,
you.
I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, happy
And I
Thanksgiving.
hope you
Thank
have
you.
your
We'll be eating sweet potato pie.
We
Yeah,
knew that.
I figured that. Okay. Callie Crossley is host of Under the Radar, which you can catch Sunday nights right here at 89.7 at 6 o'clock. She's also the host of Basic Black, which airs tonight at 7:30 on GBH. And you can also hear her Callie commentaries. She's done extensive work in the sweet potato front on the Callie commentaries. You can hear those Mondays on GBH's Morning Edition. Thanks a lot, Callie.
See you, Callie.
Coming up, our media maven Sue O'Connell is here for her weekly Marjorie Taylor Greene update. And news that Ticketmaster and Taylor Swift are never, ever, ever getting back together. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News.
The movie She Said tells the story of how two New York Times journalists uncovered movie mogul Harvey Weinstein's crimes and persuaded the women he victimized to come forward.
You know, I think there's a kind of portrait of womanhood and sisterhood that the movie is putting forward.
I'm Mary Louise Kelly, actress Zoe Kazan, this afternoon on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Atlantic Design Center by Eldridge Lumber and Hardware, committed to helping you achieve your vision for a new kitchen or bathroom and guiding you from design to completion with showrooms in York and Portland, Maine. AtlanticDesignCTR.com. And North Shore Music Theater, A Christmas Carol. The 31st annual production of the holiday musical is on stage at Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater from December 1st through 23rd. More at nsmt.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. Here to take on the social norms and abnormalities of the day, which are multiplying every day, is media maven Sue O'Connell. Sue is the co-publisher of Bay Windows and South End News and contributor to Current on NBCLX and NECN. Hello there, Sue O'Connell.
Good day. Oh, look, I got real applause. I didn't have to do it myself.
I'm sure it's your cousins who are here every time you are here.
Hundreds of them.
So media maven Sue O'Connell, let's start with Nancy Pelosi, who's just decided she's not going to be the Speaker of the House or head up the Democratic Party. She's going to just be a congresswoman from San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm sure just a congresswoman.
Yeah, well, I guess she'll mentor her successor. But in any case, I love this quote from House Speaker Newt Gingrich, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, who's got no use for her. He doesn't like her as a Republican. But he told the Washington Post, quote, "You could argue she's been the strongest speaker in history. She's shown more capacity to organize and muscle with really narrow margins, which I would have thought impossible. And she's only the second speaker ever that lost her seat and then came back. Right. Sam Rayburn back in, I think it was 1955.
Right.
And she really, even though she seems to drive people crazy, she was really something in her role.
She was amazing, and I think that her performance and her job performance, regardless of whether you agree with her or not as politics, I think this is one of those moments where if you are a diehard Republican and against everything the Democrats stand for, you can step back and see the great barriers that she overcame as a woman, to become a congressperson and then to be in charge of the House and of her party.
5 kids.
Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing feat on its own, and her ability to manage her group, right? And we're going to see over the next 2 years, I know we might talk about this, when the Republicans have a Speaker of the House, who may be Kevin McCarthy, and Kevin McCarthy is going to have to corral these Republicans with a very slim margin to achieve the goals that they have. And we're going to see exactly how skilled Nancy Pelosi was in contrast to the challenge. And this isn't going to be just about Kevin McCarthy. These are real challenges that he's going to have, and we will see how successful she was.
Well, he got the tantric sex queen, Marjorie Taylor Greene, to vote for him. One of the great lines, Pelosi, one of the things I do love about her She is about as vicious as it gets.
Love it.
And
Here's her
fearless.
quote. This is during her farewell speech, or at least I'm not running for leadership yesterday. She called out 3 presidents she'd been proud to work with by name.
I have enjoyed working with 3 presidents achieving historic investments in clean energy with President George Bush, transformative healthcare reform with President Barack Obama, and forging the future from infrastructure to healthcare to climate action with President Joe Biden.
Didn't she serve with 4 presidents? How beautiful is that? Rather than calling out Trump and saying the worst president who ever lived, that is so beautifully constructed. I love that.
She was a particular Italian grandmother, I think, that many of us know from our neighborhoods. And also, she's the type of parental figure that you wouldn't want to be on her bad side. And if you went to dinner at the house and perhaps you were a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a new member of the family, you might 3 days later look at your spouse and go, did she cut me at the table? I'm not really sure. I think I'm still bleeding.
She and Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to take a step on the wrong direction in her house. You know what else too? Kevin McCarthy didn't show up. Steve Scalise, who she talked about and commiserated with when he was shot and almost killed by the Bernie Sanders guy that shot some at baseball field where he was playing with other Republican teammates. He was there, but McCarthy didn't show up.
I didn't know that till you just said that.
Yeah, it's just sort of a classless.
Really classless.
It is
classless.
very classless.
It's like Trump not going to the inauguration.
And you wonder how anybody, even if you are on Kevin McCarthy's side politically, can have much respect for the guy, because he seems to have no respect for himself, unlike Nancy Pelosi, who really got under Donald Trump's skin
Boy, did she ever.
in a way.
Artfully.
Yeah, in a way I never
consistently.
really saw anybody else do it.
Yeah, and communicated. My favorite Nancy Pelosi moment, I'm not exactly sure when it happened, but I can't remember if during one of Trump's State of the Union speeches, someone booed, and she just looked at them in the audience and did that, motherly point and look, and they shut right up.
Yeah.
Corralling the progressive caucus and corralling people who were just livid about Donald Trump was a great, masterful, school of leadership.
But wait a second. While
About
she
the
did
tearing
that,
up.
right,
Yeah, that was a
during
little
the
bit of the top.
speech, she is tearing up
I
the
loved it.
president's speech
Yeah.
as Trump is
And
speaking.
remember the way she clapped at him
my
like
God.
this? And then
Which her daughter said when you got that clap from her, that was like when you barely met the minimum requirement
Exactly.
of what, you have to eat your peanut butter before you can leave, and they take a bite and put it down, and she'd go like this and clap in
then
their
they're
faces.
at this
Yeah.
big table. I don't know where they were, some White House big conference room. There must have been about 20 people around the table, including Donald Trump, who's right across from her, like you're right across from me. Everybody's sitting down. They're all in their dark suits. She's in some bright red or blue dress, going like this to Donald Trump. It was just great. That I love the way she was able to annoy him.
And we mentioned yesterday, Affordable Care Act. Obama himself said it wouldn't have been law without her behavior, her leadership, Iraq War. Opposition, a whole bunch of things that would not have happened in this country were it not for her incredible
And look at
strength
you
and
stepping
leadership.
down like she said she would too, which I think we thought might
That's
have
a
been
very good
in
point,
doubt.
actually,
I
yes.
mean, when Seth Moulton and other Congress people
Yep.
challenged her to be, whether or not she should be Speaker of the House when Joe Biden was elected, and she said, "I'm only going to serve, the rest of my term." There is absolutely no reason why we should have believed her, considering she's a Congressperson. But she did what she said.
We were going to mention Kari Lake, speaking of classless, for refusing to concede, but I can't talk about Kari Lake again for at least a few days. Just to say, if people missed it, she is not conceding. She's hiring lawyers, lawyering up to challenge an election, which had no problems. We discussed yesterday. We started yesterday's show with Arlene Isaacson, who was there starting in the 70s, the 80s, when finally there was civil rights legislation for LGBTQ people passed at the State House. And by the way, I didn't realize until yesterday, passed very narrowly in the Democratic House by just 7 votes or 6 votes. We were talking obviously about the Respect for Marriage Act, which procedurally passed the Senate with 12 Republicans. What we didn't talk about, because I wanted to focus on the progress in the LGBTQ world, was the other part of the thing, which we'd codify should have passed, interracial marriage, which is also at risk from the Supreme Court. And what I also hadn't thought about when I looked at the vote totals, when I saw Mitch McConnell voted no, I figured, well, that's Mitch McConnell, until I thought a little bit more about it. What's odd about that, Sue O'Connell?
Mitch McConnell is in a interracial marriage.
Yes, he is.
His wife is Asian American, and that counts as an interracial marriage under the law that they would look to sort of reinstitute. So, I mean, this is a classic.
Elaine Chao,
who
secretary
also was
2 times
under the Trump administration, and this is a classic case of Republicans republicaning, as I like to say. He knows his vote was not going to make a difference. Rather than make a stand for his own personal life, as well as I think most of us can agree should be nobody's business, he decided to just stick with his Republican Party and take the hit. I'm sure his wife agreed with him too.
Well, I don't know about it. I mean, well, I have not much respect for all of the Trump people who are now trying to market themselves as people of principle because they quit after January 6th when they're willing to serve a guy who is putting kids in cages in Texas. Elaine Chao, she did quit on January 6th itself after
and wrote a very strong letter, but she's still a Republican who's going to stick to the party line.
But can you imagine? I mean, can you?
How do you look in the mirror? I mean, that's just really very funny to me.
Right.
It's like I feel like a hypocrite at least 422 times a
Me
day.
too.
I got a straw at work. I'm like, oh my God, I'm killing the environment. I forgot my cup. I get a paper cup at work. I think, oh my God, I'm killing the environment.
You get takeout.
I get takeout. I'm killing the environment. I just feel guilty all day long. But I haven't voted against gay marriage, so I guess I'm okay.
I guess you're okay so far. That's great.
So let's get back to this mess at Ticketmaster.
Oh boy, this has been 50 years out of my life. I'm never going to get back this week.
Oh, were you trying to get tickets?
Of course I was.
Oh my God.
I would just like to point out, I'd like some sympathy. I'd like a little poor me moment.
Yep.
I used to be the music director at KISS 108
That's right.
in 1985, and there was not a ticket I couldn't get my hands on. All I had to do was pick up and say, I would like to sit in the front row of blah, 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 and there I was. I was on that computer at my house for hours trying to get Taylor Swift tickets.
For you or for your kid?
For both of us. We've been to see Taylor several times.
Have you?
Yeah, and we're Taylor Swift fans. But how far have I fallen? I mean, this is just...
I'm sorry, Sue.
Well,
can you explain?
I'm sorry.
Let's play a little sound. Here's this guy, Greg Maffei. I'm sure I'm butchering his name. The CEO of Liberty Media, Live Nation's largest shareholder, explaining the Taylor Swift Ticketmaster debacle and defending the company's role in it. Here it is.
Reality is, it's a function of the massive demand that Taylor Swift has. The site was supposed to be opened up for 1.5 million verified Taylor Swift fans. We had 14 million people hit the site, including bots, another story, which are not supposed to be there. And despite all the challenges and the breakdowns, we did sell over 2 million tickets that day. We could have filled 900 stadiums.
I don't think that excuse is satisfying a lot of members of Congress who are literally considering breaking up Ticketmaster because they say it has a monopoly and it's obviously not consumer friendly.
Yeah, and they merged with Live Nation, which is another issue.
Oh, right.
So now they have 70% of the market.
And if you're going to buy tickets, there's only one place you can get tickets, and that's from Ticketmaster, and there's no competition for it. So that's sort of the political business issue of it. I remember one time when Prince came to town to play a small concert in the 1980s, he wanted to have minority business people sell the tickets, and there were only 2, and he got them a cut in to make sure that he was reaching out to try and lift up minority ticket resellers. In fact, just lift up any ticket resellers, because even then it was difficult. So here's what happened with the Taylor Swift situation, just to break it down, because it's going to impact all of us at some point. It's not just Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift has an affinity program that the more you do stuff for Taylor, the more points you kind of get. So I had 6 tickets to the Gillette show that got canceled at COVID. So technically I, had some extra points. If my kid had retweeted some Taylor Swift stuff, she would get points. If you buy stuff, merch, you get points. And then you build up enough points. And the idea is, if you're a true Taylor Swift fan, you should get a verified code so that resellers won't be able to swoop in and buy the tickets, that you get a first cut at it. The problem is that they had so many verified people that it was overwhelming the system. And he is right. Indeed, people didn't wait their turn, right? So,
what does that mean, not wait their turn?
Well, because there was a day for Capital One credit cards that could buy. There was another day for certain venues. And folks just went on the site to see if they could get through.
Yeah.
And some people bought tickets. You could only use a Capital One card on Capital One day, got all the way to checkout, didn't have a Capital One card. And that mucked up the entire technology of it. So he is right in that the system wasn't built for this. but it's their system that they built, and it's Taylor Swift who's like the most popular artist in the world right now.
Okay, so you're in
Now-
charge of the fix. Congress appoints you a special person to deal with it. I'm serious about this. What is the fix?
The fix is to allow there to be, I mean, I don't know what the business law would be on this, but when you go to buy a television, you want to buy a Panasonic TV, you can buy it in any number of places. You
Right.
don't have to go to a Panasonic store.
Correct.
So if you want to buy a concert ticket at Gillette, you should be able to buy it at a number of venues, or a number of resellers or sellers, brokers, who are selling it, and not just have to go to one big system. And obviously, Taylor Swift hasn't said anything because she's got a relationship with Ticketmaster, as all these other places. And I'd also like to say, I know that when Bruce Springsteen's dynamic pricing, his tickets went on sale a while ago, and people got concerned because they'd sign on, and instead of $125, it was $600, and they couldn't believe they were paying this much for this guy who's got all this money. I would point out that when you go to a reseller like a StubHub,
That's what they argue.
you pay $100 for the face value of the ticket, and they're selling it for $4,000. Taylor Swift isn't getting that money.
Right.
Bruce Springsteen isn't getting that money. Any of the artists, Hootie and the Blowfish, aren't getting that money. So it's unfair to the artist that there's such a huge markup on their tickets, yet they're not getting any of that revenue. All right.
So why don't they say why isn't the solution of that saying there's no secondary market? Why should there allowed to be a secondary market?
Remember, you couldn't resell tickets.
That's
Scalp
right.
tickets, right? For those of us old enough to remember,
Yeah.
you could only resell tickets at their face value, right? So if you bought tickets for $100, you could only sell it for $100. That was found illegal. I don't know under what.
Really? Okay.
Because it's your property. You bought tickets.
I see.
You should be able to resell it. You buy a piece of art.
I got it.
You should be able to resell it.
Okay, let's get to some questions here about Taylor Swift. Now,
Okay.
I want to confirm things since you are the expert on Taylor Swift here.
Here we go again.
That the 10-minute song, you remember All Too Well?
Yes, All Too
That's
Well.
supposed to be about Jake Gyllenhaal, is that correct?
Well, I believe, yes, it is. I would say allegedly.
Allegedly, so we don't know that for sure. And how about the other song she sings, The One, as a numero uno? You could have been the one. Do we know who that
Harry
was?
Styles.
Was it Harry Styles?
We believe it's Harry Styles.
Really?
We also believe that Jake Gyllenhaal's sister,
Maggie
Gyllenhaal, does not have the red scarf.
The red
because
scarf in
The
question.
red scarf was indeed a metaphor for something.
Oh, it was. Okay, the red scarf that she left in the house. That was her scarf in
Yeah,
the house.
at Maggie's
That's
house.
a really good song.
Who'd you say the
other
one was
thing-
about again?
Harry Styles.
Harry
I heard it
Styles.
was Bill Clinton, actually.
Yeah.
No?
No.
Well, what
no,
about
good
Bobby
point.
Kennedy's kid, the grandson that was she
Oh,
had
they
an
were
affair
hanging out in
with?
Rhode
Yes,
Island,
they
Yeah,
were.
and she went to the wedding, his sister's wedding,
Uh-huh.
which, some of you might be thrilled to have Taylor Swift come to your wedding. Other of you might be like, it's my day, get the heck out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And that's kind of how they were. That
Yeah.
didn't last. She owns a home in Rhode Island.
Was the
on
last
Watch Hill.
American Dynasty song about the Kennedys?
No, that's about the house that she bought in Watch Hill. Keep coming at me, Marjorie. I
Okay.
can do this all day.
So who was the
Sorry.
American Dynasty living in
my
the house in
God.
Watch Hill?
It's in the song. She lists who it is in the song. The
Oh, she
woman who
does.
owned the house in the
in real life.
in real life.
So
in
do you have the
1800s.
list of attendees for Naomi Biden's wedding
I do
with
indeed.
you? Or do you...
Isn't Brian Raffanelli planning that?
I don't know.
Is
I
that-
don't know.
I think he is.
I don't
We
know.
went to a Brian
Yes,
Raffanelli
we
planned
did.
wedding recently. Oh,
I have never
my
seen
God.
such beautiful flowers
Most beautiful
arranged
thing I ever
in
saw.
my life.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on. Look
Okay.
across the street. What
Did
do you
I
see?
win anything?
No,
for
you
the
won
Taylor Swift
nothing.
thing?
What do you see
Okay.
across the street
I
in
see,
red?
I see Tom Brady's TB12.
Yeah.
Okay, talk about the latest scam that Tom Brady is. This one, by the way, is not funny. This is grotesque.
Okay.
If the facts that are alleged are true.
Let me just say this about that before we launch in.
Let me say
please.
this about that. You sound like JFK.
The Boston Globe, I believe, a few years ago, did a great profile on these charities that folks have, their family foundations, their family charities. Someone dies, they start a charity, people give money, people sponsor things, and it's really just a money laundering scheme to hire people in the family so they're getting money and to find ways to get donations to buy things that their own family owns. So this goes on whenever you're going to give money to a charity of any kind, including these small family foundations. It's a good idea. And don't forget Mark Zuckerberg, when he took all of his money and said, I'm going to put it in a foundation, it's a foundation that is still his money.
Right, correct.
Okay. So Tom Brady has his Tom Brady Foundation, and according to reporting done by the Daily Beast, his charity, his sports therapy and his wellness company, TB12, across the
Profit
street,
making.
was in the red as recently as 2020 with a negative balance of $7 million in net assets. Meanwhile, his TB12 Foundation is actually getting donations from just a handful of supporters, including a YouTube personality, and they are basically just shifting the money from one place to the other, allegedly, and using the money that's been donated to buy things that the Tom Brady businesses have. You might also remember that during one of the local charities that he was participating in, they made a donation to his charity so that he could make a donation to their charity. So there's just a bunch of money moving around.
Let's stay with this for a
and
second.
And the cryptocurrency, let's not forget that.
Well, let's not get to it yet. The nonprofit is a non-profit.
Just like the NFL.
It's intended to do.
Right.
It's intended to
the
do
NFL's a nonprofit.
Good things. The nonprofit, which people make tax-deductible donations. When someone makes a tax-deductible contribution, you know who subsidizes that? We do, because it's tax-deductible. Okay, so millions goes into the foundation. The foundation allegedly pays $1.6 million to TB12, his profit-making organization, for massages.
For massages.
No, for massages
yes.
and bodywork.
Yes.
That's one. Two board members of the nonprofit are paid close to $500,000. Lo and behold, who are they involved with? The for-profit TB12. And the final part of this, out of the millions of dollars that's been into this nonprofit, and I would argue, to use your word, laundered into his for-profit venture, he has given a total of $200,000.
That's it.
$200 grand while it's raised millions.
Can't even remember how much
Don't
he
forget,
paid.
Giselle is dating a jiu-jitsu guy who's
We know that.
10 years younger than Tom.
Yeah, so I mean, it's and again, this is emblematic of a lot of these foundations and how they work. So whenever you see a celebrity name or you see a family that you know and they're raising money, you can try and look this up. But this looks like it's going to get the attention of
But don't you?
lawmakers
But the
to
only
me.
quarrel I have with how you're characterizing it when you say this is
Well,
what
I mean,
you get.
it happens all the time.
No, it's
but it
also
happens all the
illegal.
time.
If what they
Yeah.
say is accurate, it is. I should say potentially illegal. At minimum, it is dirty.
Yeah.
And when you have that kind of money, you don't need to be doing those kind of shenanigans. And if he's really committed to his nonprofit venture, maybe he should contribute to the damn thing.
Okay, so what's Marjorie Taylor Greene up to?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is one of the more colorful members of the new party in power in the House. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is interesting because I feel like she is in the Marjorie Taylor Greene business. I don't know if you feel that as well.
Yeah.
Like she is one of those lawmakers who the moderate Republicans and regular Republicans are going to have a hard time corralling because she's just completely out there. I mean, she's just a complete wackadoodle. But she seems to be cutting a deal with Kevin McCarthy in order to get enough votes for him to become Speaker of the House under the Republican leadership. Who knows what she's going to get in return, but suddenly a lot on her base. A lot of the really extremists, the pro-January 6 people, are feeling that Marjorie Taylor Greene has sold out and she's left them in the dust. She, of course, isn't really that concerned about it because she expects there's going to be a Republican Civil War anyway, and if that's what happens. But, I mean, again, to our earlier conversation about Nancy Pelosi, this is the kind of stuff that Kevin McCarthy, if he's the Speaker of the House, is going to have to manage. And she is going to be one of the biggest problems.
Before you go, by the way, you obviously don't know Marjorie very well. Marjorie has no interest at all in what you just described.
I certainly do.
No, you don't. She was interested. She wanted to bring up Marjorie Taylor Greene in the hopes that you would work in the tantric sex with the gym partner back into the...
They've broken up, haven't they? It's all done.
For people who haven't heard,
I'm not sure,
you
but
talk about
both
it
of them
before?
were married. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a family-first kind of
She is.
candidate.
Exactly.
She believes that marriage should be between a man and a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to judge what anybody does in their
not
own
at all.
personal life. But if you're going to be out in front saying marriage is between a man and a woman, you should not be having an affair with your tantric sex coach.
Well, he was only one of two.
Yeah,
she
there
was
were
having
several
a,
of
The other one was
two
not
affairs.
a tantric sex coach.
No,
The
he
other
was
one
not
just a
tantric
regular
sex.
affair.
They're very fit.
They
I
are
have to say
fit,
this
yes.
about
They're
her.
very
She's
fit.
very fit and flexible.
Yeah, so are the jiu-jitsu people.
Sting is, Sting is a tantric sex kind of guy.
He is.
Too,
Yes. Yes.
With his wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that's a good point.
The other thing that Marjorie Taylor
Ray
Greene
Angry is
has
going to
been-
be playing with us a little while. He is performance thing, by the way. And
Really?
David's
I thought
thing.
you were going to say
I've
he was a
been with
tantric
Ray
sex
No,
guy.
I don't know him that well. I just met him a few minutes ago.
Okay. So she got in a little hot water. I think she did get in a little hot water anyway for saying.
Well, we'll see.
For comparing the people that are coming here to the United States, migrants, people people seeking asylum from war-torn country. She compared them to Russian forces invading Ukraine.
She says all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I'm happy about the Twitter breakdown right now is that somehow I'm not getting fed the Marjorie Taylor Greene clips, which I had been on a regular basis. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't know how she's doing with the tantric sex guy, but
I think she's doing pretty well.
Or she did, anyway. We don't know if she is.
Moving on.
Okay, Sue O'Connell.
Sue O'Connell, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have been speaking with Sue O'Connell. She's the co-publisher of Bay Windows and South End News. Big Taylor Swift fan, I did not know that. And contributor to Current on NBC, LX, and NECN. Up next, Boston's baker extraordinaire, Joanne Chang of Flour Bakery and Myers & Chang is here. Flour Bakery, I was just there last Saturday. It's unbelievable. You are listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
It's been 1 year since Michelle Wu was sworn in as mayor of Boston, and it has been a busy one. I'm Adam Riley. Join me tonight for Talking Politics. We'll look at Mayor Wu's record so far on issues like mass and caste, Boston's struggling public schools, and the continued fight against climate change. And we'll ask what her biggest challenges are likely to be moving forward. Talking Politics 7 on GBH2 and online at gbhnews.org.
Support for our programs comes from you and Ocean State Job Lot, partnering with customers to help veterans in the Northeast by donating winter coats to those in need. More at oceanstatejoblot.com. That's oceanstatejoblot.com. And Vantage Healthcare, providing primary care physicians throughout New England. Vantage brings their primary care team on site to assisted living communities, nursing homes, and more. Learn more at myvantagehcs.com.
Trusted. Local news. This is 89.7 WGBH, WGBH HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. Boston's local NPR.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Taylor Greene live at the Boston Public Library, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. We're now joined by, are we allowed to say one of our favorites, or we're not supposed to say who our favorites are? We are joined by one of our favorites at the Boston Public Library, Joanne Chang, mastermind behind Flour Bakery, and half of the duo behind Myers & Chang. I believe the other half would be her husband, Christopher Myers. Joanne, it's great to see you.
It's great to be here. Hello, everybody.
By the way, Mayor Wu was here earlier in the day and mentioned that one of the two pastry offerings at her wedding was made by Joanne Chang. Is that not correct?
No way.
What do you mean, no way?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I had the brunch after my daughter's wedding, all from flour, and the quiche were the best of it. I mean,
excellent.
You got an unbelievable place. You got an unbelievable place. And she brought a present, of course, as Joanne Chang would.
The best.
That is her pumpkin.
Oh, Callie Crossley is going. That's a pumpkin
that's
pie,
a pumpkin
Callie.
pie.
No, Callie got the double chocolate cookies that we got for everybody.
She's still here.
Yes.
Wait, do you want to settle this before we go? Callie Crossley has been, is it fair to say you've been unkind to us in this debate? It has, for years, about the sweet potato pie versus the pumpkin pie. She obviously is a sweet potato kind of person. I am a pumpkin person. Marjorie is non-committal. Do you want to weigh in on that, Joanne Chang?
I think that it is obviously a personal choice.
Oh.
It is. People.
That is pathetic.
No.
Go ahead.
Hold on. Honestly, I think with pastries and with food, it's all what you grew up with, right? It's nostalgia. It brings you back home. And so if you grew up with sweet potato, you like sweet potato. I am not sweet potato. I'm not pumpkin. I'm not even non-committal. I didn't have pumpkin pie until we made our first pumpkin pie.
Is that true?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I ordered that chocolate deal to pick up next. What's that chocolate thing?
The chocolate cream pie?
Oh, my God. That is unbelievable. In any case, Callie, there you are. It's what you grow up with.
So,
and by the way, Joanne Chang is obviously running for state rep next week based upon that performance.
One of our texters says we have two great ideas for BPR fundraisers: Callie's sweet potato pie recipe and Marjorie's Secretariat mug. Our staff made us a special mug of Secretariat winning the Belmont Stakes a million years ago. So there was this great video you had of 15 to 20 workers making 7,000 sandwiches. What was that all about?
So we were asked to produce 7,000 sandwiches and 1,000 salads for a big event for a customer who was hosting, obviously, a huge party. And 7,000 sandwiches. Yeah, that's what we do in 3 days. So the idea of doing it for one big order took about 3 weeks of planning and prepping. And then starting at 3 a.m., I think it was 60 people.
Okay.
I showed 20, but there were 60 people, 2 lines. And we did this amazing, just the assembly line where everybody had one job. So one person put the bread, another person spread, another person put the greens, and it just went zoom, 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 zoom.
What kind of sandwiches?
Turkey sandwich.
Turkey sandwiches.
Wait, they're all turkey sandwiches?
They were all turkey sandwiches.
And how many hours did it take to make 7,000 sandwiches?
It took us from 3:30 a.m. and we were done, packed with everything till 9:30 a.m. So about 6 hours.
That is really
And everybody got a
amazing.
cookie. And
Joanne
a nice
Chang
little
just
bag.
handed out cookies.
We know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have some cookies for. Oh,
Which
good.
is
They're handing them out
wonderful.
right now. Yay!
It's the loudest applause we've gotten all day is for cookies. I mean, that's how sad this operation is. So you're doing something with GBH that I am going to sign up for. And by the way, the deadline for signing up is November 21st. Explain what you're doing, please.
Okay, so we are going to do a bake-along with our sticky buns. Our sticky buns are what we are known for at Flower Bakery.
Yes.
And they are not a hard pastry to make, but I think people sometimes get intimidated. And so we're going to do a virtual class where I'm going to make the sticky buns. I'm going to show you how you make the brioche, which is actually an incredibly versatile dough. You can do so many things with brioche, but the thing that we love to do with it is make sticky buns. So you're going to learn how to make the sticky sugar, how to roll the sticky buns, how to make the goo, proof them, bake them, and then you'll have sticky buns at home.
And by the way, they're really good for you, too. Are they not? They're really good.
So
and by the
healthy.
way, do you have any idea how you sign up for this thing? We should know. Do you know where Jamie, can you find out? Jamie's going to find out. We'll tell you where to go in a few minutes. Here, we're talking to Joanne Chang, obviously, of Myers and Chang and Flower Bakery. I want you to know that I had a big conflict. I announced on the air last week that the turkey that I was making this year was the soy and honey glazed Joanne Chang recipe. And then Lydia Bastianich was with us yesterday, and I made the mistake of asking her how she makes her turkey. And she gave us, was it excruciating detail, Marjorie? I mean, great detail.
She did. She went into great
Every
detail.
spice, everything. So if you were me and you had to choose between doing a Lydia Bastianich turkey or a Joanne Chang turkey, what would you do, Joanne Chang?
I would do a Joanne Chang turkey,
Exactly,
of course.
exactly.
Of course.
No politics there.
No.
Exactly.
Boy, it looks fabulous.
Yeah.
Did I get it right?
It is
Soy
great,
and honey
yes. Soy
glaze.
and honey, it makes the skin really glistening and burnished looking. It's almost like a version of Peking duck, sort of, in that when you roast it, then the outside, because of the honey, it gets really, really brown and golden. And I think the soy is so good with the turkey.
Do you cook, by the way, I said to Marjorie asked me that I've ordered a ton of vegetables and whatever and pies and stuff from Thanksgiving from you guys, from Flower. Do you cook for Thanksgiving or do you not?
So I order one of everything off of the menu.
Do you really?
I do. And then I get a turkey, and Christopher and I make it together. And the last 3 or 4 years, we've spatchcocked a turkey, which is super. Well, so you cut it down the backbone, and then you like butterfly it, like lay it out flat and press it flat. And then it cooks in like an hour. And so you don't have to do this thing where you're planning all day long around this turkey that's taking up all the room. So we eat the turkey, and then we have all the sides from Flower Bakery.
That's pretty
You know what I wonder? When you are developing new recipes and you're trying to decide what you're going to put, whether it's a pastry or a turkey, do you just trust your own taste buds, or do you get 3 or 4 people together, or do you have to keep trying these things over and over until you get the exact right thing?
We do. So for me, when I'm starting off with a new recipe, I have in my head what I'm hoping to get to, and then I get it to where I think it's good. And then usually along the way, I have 2 or 3 people who are tasting it along with me. And then something that I might think is really good, I might want something to be like super, super moist, and other people might say, oh, that's too soggy. And so getting other people's feedback is definitely important. But ultimately, the one thing that we say all the time is when we're doing a tasting, and sometimes there's 1 item, or sometimes it's 5 or 6 items. The items that make it past our test are the ones where after we're done tasting, and then we're just talking business, that we keep going back to.
That's great.
It's like an unconscious thing that you're just like, oh, that was so good, and you just keep eating it.
We spoke to you and Christopher, or just you a number of times during the pandemic, where I hesitate always to say it's over, because you look at the New York Times, 300 people still dying every day, so it is far from over for those families, needless to say. How'd you come out of this whole nightmare?
Well,
I don't mean personally, I mean personally and as a business.
We made a lot of changes during the pandemic to adjust to social distancing. We made a huge change in how we operate within the bakeries and with our production kitchen, and we kept that change. And so now, I agree with you, to say post-pandemic feels weird, but now that we've learned to live with the pandemic, these changes have become permanent, and they've helped us become a stronger business, honestly.
Why do you say that?
Because I think prior to the pandemic, there was an element of everything's so good. I know that this, looking at the past with rose-colored glasses, but I do think, business was strong, and our product quality kept increasing. Like, everything just felt like it was on this upward trend. And the most, the thing that we thought about was, where are we going to expand next? How are we going to grow? How are we going to continue to, spread everything that we love to do to more people? And then the pandemic hit, and then we had to really focus on what are we really good at? Where have we possibly collected some fat that we need to trim down? How can we be more consistent? And it just put a pause on, sometimes you get a little exuberant. And so it forced us to slow down a little bit and take a look at the entire business model and see how we want to operate.
So are you better at what you do today than you were 3 years ago?
We're definitely more consistent. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And why is there still such difficulty, not necessarily your restaurants, but in general, getting people? It seems like everyone complains, or not everyone, but there's a lot of complaining about not being able to hire staff.
Well, you're having the problem too. It's not just others.
Oh yeah, we are having that. I mean, every industry, and definitely the restaurant industry. And Christopher and I talk about this all the time. Like, where did everybody go? What is everybody doing?
What jobs are they doing?
I don't know. I don't know, honestly. We're struggling.
Did you hear from people? Was it the hours or the? I mean, restaurants are very time-consuming.
I do think that had something to do with it. I think that there were a number of people who were in the food service business who were doing it kind of because it's what they knew how to do, and there was a momentum of just, I have this job and I'm making some money and I'm paying my tuition or my bills and I'm just going to keep going. And I think when they stopped, when everything shut down, there was like, wow, do I really want to be in this industry? Do I really want to work this hard? I mean, the restaurant business is super, super hard, and I think some people are in it because it can be a good way to make money if you're a server, for example. And I think there's a ton of people who are in it because they really, really love it, and those are the ones who are still in it. And I think there are a lot of people who are like, I fell into this after college, and I kind of did it for a while, and now maybe this isn't what I was meant to do, for my future. So we're seeing a lot of people pivoting and doing other things. We had a fair number of people just physically move.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people moved home, and then people have moved on.
So how anxiety-provoking is neither of us are calling it post-pandemic, this stage of the pandemic, how anxiety-provoking is the business?
It is very stressful in that last year, about this time, I think we were thinking that we were having, it was post-vaccine, the summer had been strong, people were starting to come back, it was starting to feel like we were getting back to a little bit more normalcy, and then Omicron hit. I think it was just about this time. So we were just in a meeting talking about this, crossing our fingers and toes and hoping that everything just kind of keeps moving along. Again, I think we're learning to live with the pandemic is what we're trying to emphasize to everybody, both our guests and to our staff.
We're talking to Joanne Chang from Flour and Myers & Chang.
So, of course, you're on the best sandwich in Greater Boston list. What kind of sandwich was it that made the list?
I don't know that they picked a specific sandwich. I think they had just general sandwiches, but I know that some of the sandwiches that they mentioned are the grilled cauliflower melt.
Yes.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
And then we have
you say so yourself. Right, exactly.
The mushroom melt. We have mushroom melt right now that's really good. The turkey that we were just talking about.
The turkey with the cranberry sauce. Oh,
exactly.
God, it's great.
You know what you're leaving out? The reason your sandwiches is, I can't be, I'm telling this to you. The reason the bread is the whole deal.
Yeah.
I don't mean that the insides aren't important and great, but the bread is where it starts and ends.
Yes, you can get the North Country Applewood smoked bacon on focaccia toast.
Exactly,
Jim.
yes.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Why are there not, we've had this discussion before. I'm sure you're aggravated whenever I bring it. Why are there not more? Were there 9 flowers right now?
9.
And one Myers and Chang.
Sound like a lot.
No, I know it's a lot,
It is
but
a
Myers
lot.
and Chang is a good. Myers and Chang is fairly small inside.
Correct.
And I'm sure that was a nightmare in terms of spacing and that kind of thing.
Right.
It is wildly popular. It's on every single best restaurant in Boston list, practically since, I moved here a little bit before, but since it opened. Why is there not a second one and a third one and whatever? I mean, why?
Christopher and I talked about that, and we thought about expanding Myers and Chang a little while ago, and then we just decided to focus our expansion efforts with flour and to keep Myers and Chang just one special single unit. There's something about the bakery that lends itself to replication. All of the recipes are literally formulas. We everything is grammed out so that the pastries can all be consistent, and so that's relatively easy to scale up and to give to a different baker, production team member, and then they can make whatever the item is. Whereas with cooking in general, and at Myers and Chang cooking Chinese food, it's harder to scale that. You can't really scale it.
Yeah.
We have 2 woks, and so we can only make so much, and we don't have if we were to open another Myers and Chang, I think just the training of how to wok cook is hard, and it's not quite as easy to follow a formula.
What's it like working with Christopher Myers, by the way? I mean, he can be a really
Should you
difficult
say
guy.
that's
I know.
your husband?
Well, I think people
Yeah.
know that. He's a pretty difficult guy. Let's be honest,
He
right?
is not difficult.
So what is it like doing a husband-wife kind of deal like you guys have done for so long?
Christopher's had a number of partnerships. I have only had him as a business partner and life partner. And listening to him and our other friends who have partnerships, the great thing is that we trust each other 100%, 1,000%. We're both working together for the same thing. Obviously, we have disagreements about, different decisions, but we know that there's one goal, to try to make the businesses successful and thriving and make sure that the teams are happy and our guests are happy. So it's really great to have a partner. Plus, as you know, we're very opposite in terms of...
Oh, yes, you are.
We have very different skill sets, which is super helpful because he sees things differently than I do, and he's able to offer perspective that I'm totally blind to, and hopefully vice versa.
Whose idea were the grossly obscene cookies on Valentine's Day?
Okay, I want you to guess.
I would say Christopher Myers. Is that a fair...
It was my idea.
No, it was
my idea.
The wholesome Joanne Chang? You are kidding me.
They were great. I mean, it wasn't, you had to be over 18.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, do you ever.
They were, I love those cookies. I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, they're fun.
You know what I want to talk about? I mean, I love this story about cake stands because I'm a big fan of cake stands. And they're wonderful to have in your kitchen.
Yes.
How come?
Well, the thing is that we think often that a cake stand is just for cakes, but you can actually use it for so many things. We use cake stands in the bakery to pile a big pile of cookies and present it in a way that looks different than just putting it on a platter. You can put candles on a cake stand. They're just really versatile. And I love at the bakery, we have a lot of different cake stands because it offers different heights. Yeah, so it's just a nice way. So here I have a pumpkin pie. For
That is gorgeous, by
the
the way.
audience, you
It
can
is
see a pumpkin
beautiful.
pie. But just sitting here, it's a beautiful pie, but it's very flat. And if it were
would-
elevated on a
exactly.
pretty cake stand, it would be a little bit more appealing.
And it keeps the food fresh too.
Yes,
is what
exactly.
it does. But so glass, it has to be a glass, doesn't it? Or I mean, I don't know what they make that actually of, but see-through.
Oh yes, a glass, or you could do plastic. Plastic does after you wash it, it gets a little cloudy.
Yeah.
But then glass is very breakable.
Glass is
so-
breakable. You have to be very careful.
Yeah.
You can have them different heights.
Yes.
Like 2 or 3 inches, and then 4 or 5 inches. I have a cake
And
stand.
different colors.
You do not have a
I
cake
do.
stand.
I do.
And what do you put on a cake
Pastry.
stand?
I put pastry
You
in
do
there.
not. Do you
Yes,
really?
I do. If I'm making a cake, I mean, I'm not much of a cook, but if I do make a cake, I would put the cake in there because it keeps it fresh. Or if I get pastry, like we were talking about the ginger, lemon ginger scones I got
Put it
at
right in
Flour
there.
Bakery. I put them in there, and they lasted, and I didn't eat them for another 3 days, and they were still
stays fresh.
perfectly fresh, Jim. That's why you have a cake stand.
Oh, excuse
And they
me,
look
Marjorie.
pretty.
Thank you.
They look very pretty. That's the other reason you have a cake
I'll tell you,
stand.
there's no cake stand with a pumpkin pie, and it is gorgeous. Before you go, I should have known this before. You had a television show called the weirdest television show I've ever seen, but I couldn't turn it off. Called, was it Baking Impossible?
Baking Impossible,
Is there
yes.
a season 2, or is
There is not. At this
Oh.
point, there's not. Yeah, I think
Oh.
the producers are shopping it around to other networks to see if they're interested.
Yeah, I
But-
couldn't believe I was watching it. I couldn't stop watching it. It was fabulous. You can still find it online, I should say.
Yes,
So,
it's on Netflix.
in any case, by the way,
we got the info.
do it
Yes,
right now.
about the event you're doing for GBH. So if people are interested, it's gbh.org/events if you want to go to that. And tell people again, it's going to be, the deadline is coming up, right? It's November 21st. That's
Yep.
Monday.
Correct.
And when's
So-
the event itself happening?
The 5th. The 3rd.
Do you know anything about this, Joanne, or do you obviously don't?
I need to see my calendar.
Okay, December 3rd.
I
Thank
know
you
it's on
very
the
much.
weekend.
But November 21st is the deadline. I am signing up because I wanted to know how to make these. Is this one of these things where you're a very nice person, as most people know, where at the end you're going to say, oh, you did a really nice job, Jim, when that was horrible?
No.
Or am I actually going to be able to do this?
You're going
at
to be
the
able
end?
to do this.
Really?
That's the whole reason to watch the classes,
That
to
is
see.
really
No, I'm
exciting.
serious. So
I
that
mean
you
it.
can see all the different points where you might think you're going awry, but you're not. I think that's what happens when people bake. They don't know what to expect. They see something breaks, something looks too dark or too light. They don't know what to do, and then they panic. And hopefully with this class, I can say, oh, if you think this is wrong, this is actually the way it's supposed to look. So be patient. Let's keep going.
And people can direct questions at you and that kind of
Absolutely.
thing, right? Great.
Yeah, it's going to be on Zoom.
Yes.
Right? An hour-long baking class, and you're going to learn how to make sticky buns. Yes. Which, of course,
Doesn't
are
get
the
much
best.
better than
Are the
that.
best thing ever. You know, I was thinking we were talking, as Jim said, to Lydia Bastianich yesterday, Italian chef, and she was talking about how Julia Child. I guess they were friendly, and I'm old enough to remember that Julia Child, when you could see her on television,
Yeah.
for people that were hopeless cases, like my own mother, who thought Dinty Moore's out of a can was the way to go.
So did I.
Yeah, seeing a chef in action, like you'll be doing the sticky buns, it's a huge difference to people that are intimidated.
I think that like anything, the more practice you have, the more familiarity, you kind of know how to move, you know how to, what to anticipate. And so I think that's what you see when you watch a chef, or if you're watching me make sticky buns, it's like I've done it a gazillion times. And so there is like a flow to it.
Yeah.
Joanne Chang, it is wonderful to see you as always. Please say hi to the great Christopher Myers
I
as well.
absolutely
Sorry
will.
we missed him today.
We'll let you know
It's
how Jim's
wonderful to see
sticky
her.
buns turn out.
Oh,
He's gonna
good.
bring
No, I'm
them
going to
in.
let her
Thank
know
you.
directly.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Thank you.
Thank you
Happy
very much for
Thanksgiving,
being here.
everybody.
Happy
Great to
Thanksgiving
see
to you, too.
Thanks for the cookies and the pie and
Yes,
the whatever.
and
too.
Joanne Chang very graciously not only brought a pie here, but brought cookies for everybody in the audience, which is really lovely. She is the mastermind behind Flour Bakery and half the duo behind the great restaurant Myers and Chang. And again, tickets to Chang's December 3rd holiday baking class hosted by GBH are available at gbh.org/events, where on Zoom you can watch her make sticky buns and learn how to do it yourself. Thanks again to Joanne Chang for being here. Coming up, another live Music Friday performance at the Boston Public Library. Ray Angry is here. He's pianist and composer for The Roots, the house band for NBC's Tonight Show. He'll play for us and talk about his first ever symphony, which is premiering this weekend. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
The movie She Said tells the story of how two New York Times journalists uncovered movie mogul Harvey Weinstein's crimes and persuaded the women he victimized to come forward.
You know, I think there's a kind of portrait of womanhood and sisterhood that the movie is putting forward.
I'm Mary Louise Kelly, actress Zoe Kazan, this afternoon on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, offering Medicare Advantage plans with new benefits like enhanced dental coverage, as well as a broad network of doctors, hospitals, and specialists. BlueCrossMA.com/go. And National Grid, providing access to electric heat pumps that can help businesses achieve their sustainability goals. You can learn more about heat pump technology at ngrid.com/future.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Taylor live from the Boston Public Library, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH News. It's time for another Live Music Friday performance at the BPL. We're joined now by Ray Angry. You probably know as pianist and composer for The Roots, house band for NBC's Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, but he's a collaborator with scores and scores of the world's greatest performers. He'll be premiering his first ever symphony, Black Athena-Power, this weekend on Saturday with the Lexington Symphony Orchestra. He's here with Jonathan McPhee, who's the music director for the Lexington Symphony Orchestra. Ray and Jonathan, great to have you both here. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah,
nice to be
thank
here.
you very much for being here. So, you know, you've got an incredible resume, history of what you've done. You know, Jimmy Fallon, Tonight Show, and all that. But I don't think of you as a symphony orchestra kind of guy. So
that's good.
Yeah,
that's
so
what I want.
Yeah, so it's just a versatility thing. You're doing everything.
Yeah, I believe that if you really work hard and have discipline, but if you have a vision for what you want to do, you can achieve it. So I think that's pretty much what happened in this case, because I didn't think of myself as an orchestrator either, or you know what I mean, you know. But I put my mind to it and I made it happen. So
what is the genesis, though? Is it out of your head, out of his head?
Out of my head.
Obviously. So explain how you two came together, which is a nice familial story. Explain the connection and explain the genesis of the symphony.
Okay. Pandemic.
Yeah.
Lots of things happened during the pandemic, and during that period when orchestras were shut down, and a lot was happening within the country, politically and socially. I got to thinking, okay, here's all of this attention now going back to composers of color. So you get Florence Price, and everybody was like pulling Florence Price out of the libraries. And 5 years ago, nobody knew who she was. She died in 1953. William Grant Still is another composer who couldn't even get his performances of his piece regularly. So what happened was, I was thinking, gee, wait a minute. During this sort of period in history where we weren't really doing contemporary music in orchestra worlds from composers of color, where did they go? They went into popular music. They went into jazz. They went into the Cotton Club in the 20s and 30s. So I called the expert and said, I want somebody who is classically trained, but isn't using that muscle. Instead, they're making really great headway in jazz and pop music. And that expert's my brother, Keith McPhee.
And what's his day job?
His day job, music producer for the Fallon Show, and he is production for Roots. Yeah. And without a second, he said, Ray Angry. And I said, okay, wait a minute. I know him in that genre. Can you give me some idea? And he sent me to some files from Ray. This guy's got so much depth, variety. The voice has so many different aspects to it that, particularly with one piece that he did, Lady in the Mirror, I was blown away. I mean, it's very Puccini-esque.
Ray, explain the theme of this. You're gonna, by the way, we're gonna play a little bit from the rehearsal last night, and then you're gonna play some things of your own in a minute. Explain the theme of the symphony. By the way, I was gonna wear that exact same outfit today, and I decided not to. Would that have been weird, or would that have been incredible?
You know, I was trying to make it, you know.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. So what's the theme of this thing?
It's a celebration of the divine feminine, and it's also an exploration of power throughout all of time. And so I wanted to create something that was for all of mankind, so that people from all different cultures could sort of walk away with something. More importantly, I wanted people to walk away singing a melody. So I wanted to make something that was very melodic, but at the same time very inspiring, to create this idea that we can all get along together and work together and make the world a better place. And also, music is a universal language. So I feel like, why not use my art to, you know, to infect change? You know, like Muhammad Ali, you know, I think he uses celebrity to infect change. So I want to follow that blueprint.
Here's a little sound, and obviously you can't capture it unless you're actually there, and you should be. Here's sound from Ray Angry's symphony, Black Athena-Power. This is during a rehearsal Thursday night. I couldn't read your face when you're listening to your own music. What did you think of that?
Oh, it's good.
It's good. Okay.
Okay.
So is it true that you guys hadn't met despite this year-plus long collaboration until this week?
Well, again, because of the pandemic, we sort of met by doing video conferencing, and
Zoom.
sometimes Ray would throw things up on my screen, and I'd be sharing a MIDI file and going, wow, that is really what? So this is the first time we've actually met in person.
Yeah,
It's pretty great, actually.
Technology
So,
is
okay.
something else.
So before you play, I already made a fool of myself by asking you a question about Ray Angry, that you've heard about a million times. So I'm going to make a fool of myself again because that's why I'm here. Get any good Jimmy Fallon stories for us?
Any good Jimmy Fallon stories?
Yeah.
Careful.
She means bad Jimmy Fallon stories.
I
That's
don't.
what she means.
He seems like a really good guy. He does a lot of those impersonations of singers. He's up there being.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you, Jimmy is one hell of a musician.
Yeah.
Like he's a fucking serious musician. No,
Beautifully
seriously.
put. Thank you.
And he's a great singer as well.
Oh, he is a great singer.
Oh yeah.
Well, he does everybody.
I think he has perfect pitch as well.
He does.
Yeah.
Do you?
I have perfect relative pitch.
Perfect relative pitch. Okay.
So, Ray, you're going to go play. First of all, before you take the headphones off, what are you going to play? And then we'll talk Jonathan for a minute while you're walking over there. What are you playing?
Well, I'm going to play something for you guys.
Great.
You are?
Yeah.
You want to tell us about it? Or
you guys mean so much to me. I figure just start off with a clean slate, something that's for you guys.
I love that.
This is my, thank you for having me. So I want to write something for you guys.
Thank you.
This is very exciting, Jim. A song for us.
Yeah.
I love it.
I hope you
Okay.
like it.
All right.
Why don't you go do that? Hey, Jonathan, I have a question for you.
Sure.
We'll hear Ray in just a couple of seconds. We talk to Andres Nelsons from the BSO all the time, and we don't give nearly enough play to these fabulous local, brilliant orchestras. And I've gotten to see quite a few. Tell us a little bit about your operation.
Well, Lexington Symphony has been around about 25 years. All professional musicians. They're all from the local area. Some of them sub in Boston Pops, Boston Symphony. But there's a group that they call the 495 Orchestra that sort of shows up in different towns under different names.
Oh, that's great.
And it's not like that. I mean, some of the musicians go around different places, but it's a really unique blend of sometimes music teachers, but professional musicians. And we have a great time. It's one of the few orchestras around where the players actually have a lot of input into the orchestras. It's a player-owned orchestra.
And the choir sounded pretty big.
That's New World Chorale.
Yeah.
Holly Krafka. We've got about 60 people on stage.
Wow.
And this is not an easy piece to sing, and they have really worked hard on it.
And where does the Lexington Symphony perform?
Carey Hall in Lexington, Massachusetts.
Okay,
Not
I
Kentucky.
love Carey. Carey Hall's great, by the way. It's a great venue, and everybody feels really close to the operation. So I guess we could call this a song for you. Is that what we should do? A song for GBH.
Oh, we
Ray
love
doesn't
it.
have a.
Okay.
Let's hear it for Ray Angry. angry.
That
My
was
God,
great.
rejoin us, Ray. Wow.
So I read
You're unbelievable.
that you broke your wrists and had to learn to play it all over again.
Oh, that's a really great question. I really love working out, and I broke my wrist when I was riding my bike. And because I think health and wellness is very important for artists to really focus on, And so when I broke my wrist, it was an opportunity for me to sort of get off of the hamster wheel of working with so many artists, and just sort of like, just being there, always saying yes. And so here's an opportunity for me to say yes to myself. So I had to like really learn how to play piano again. That's when I started playing classical music again. And so I had to practice and practice hours and hours and really teach myself to play again. And it was great because now I'm playing better than ever, But yeah, I think, it was an opportunity for me to get back to my roots, which is crazy that I'm here because, meeting Jonathan is just, it just blows my mind because then I had to like really think about what do I want to say as an artist, as opposed to just doing gigs and, so now I'm at a phase in my life where I want to use my art to infect change. So that's what my wrist, birth.
Looks like they healed pretty well to me, I'll tell you. Marjorie asked the question. She proceeded with saying, I know this is embarrassing. I know this is embarrassing, but I'm asking it too.
I love it.
I'm looking at the list of people, which is endless, with whom you've performed, from Esperanza Spalding to Lauryn Hill to Dionne Warwick, who I love, to Mick Jagger. This is the stupid part of the question. Is there a common thread? I mean, you can pick and choose. You're not a kind of guy who's desperate, I need to work. You can pick anybody.
That's not
obviously.
true.
Well, no, it is true. It is true. So is there a common thread, do you think, even though their music is all different, in the people with whom you choose to play?
Yeah, the common thread is that music is a universal language, and I don't see color when I make music. You know what I mean? I see melodies and rhythms, and those don't have I think, I just see that I love working with all sorts of people because it's fun to connect with humans because music is about telling stories. So everyone has a story. Dionne Warwick has a story. Esperanza Spalding has a story. So all of these artists, so I feel like my job is a job of service. So that's the common thread. Does that make sense?
You can't be this nice a guy. Are you this nice a guy? I mean, you see, is he this nice a guy? I know you've only known him face to face for a week. Is he or not?
But I've known of him, and I trust my brother.
And what does your brother say about this guy?
Well, he said he is one of a kind. He's really unique, and he's a really nice guy, and you can depend on him.
Well,
and depending on him is really important.
I did the whole tour with the Roots with one hand.
Is that what you mean? Your thing was broken?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was traveling in the airport like this and sitting in my seat, people looking at me. What's wrong with this guy? I had a big cast on.
Oh my God.
And I would play shows all across Europe with one hand.
So he's a trooper on top.
Yeah,
By the way, to get tickets to the symphony, we should have told you earlier, we'll tell you again, LexingtonSymphony.org is the place to get tickets.
So just tell us.
And they're going fast, so
do it soon.
Tell us a little bit, Jonathan, about what it's like to be the music director of a mid-sized orchestra. Is it hard? The BSO's been there forever, and they have people that have come there forever. You don't have to worry about trying to get people enthusiastic.
There are some major differences between a regional orchestra and a big symphony like Boston Symphony or New York Philharmonic or whatever. One is they have these massive endowments. They've got financial security.
Exactly.
You can go through the pandemic and you got a big cushion. And the advantage for a regional orchestra is you can shift directions very quickly.
Yeah.
So we adapted and did our own programming during the pandemic that was pretty unique. The biggest message is in this area, whereas you said, Jim, that there are a lot of regional orchestras that are very good in the area, is that we have to compete to get people, okay, yes, go to the BSO. They do things we can't do, but we do other things that they don't do. So it's really getting the message out to people, and that's part of what this program is all about. Ray's got a very unique voice. He's got a voice that goes across music in many different ways. What we wanted to do was to give him the opportunity to flex that voice using different instruments and to bridge that gap between what can be very conservative classical world of music and this very vibrant, ever-changing popular world. And I guarantee you, I mean, we've got Tchaikovsky Symphony No. 5 on the program and Mozart Don Giovanni.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different when we shift gears into Angry, and it's a whole different sound world in there. And I really hope people come in with an open mind and just experience the whole thing.
Ray Angry, you're going to play one more time for us, which we really appreciate. Before you do, were you concerned when you started off on this enterprise that maybe I can't do this?
Hell yeah.
You were? I'm serious. So how'd you cope with that? I mean, how'd you deal with that?
Well, I had an incredible teacher. His name is Raimundo Peñaforte. He's taught at Juilliard. And I would meet with him twice a week when I started this. And actually, this music was birthed out of this project that I did. I scored this film called Descendant.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of like, me testing the grounds because I had a really incredible string ensemble. And my friend Myron Walden, an incredible woodwind master. So so I was working with those guys. And honestly, Raimundo forced me to start writing, and I think they say showing up is half the battle. When you go to the gym and you get, you show up and you're there and you're like, when you're on a treadmill, you're like, okay, I'm here. So to me, that's I just showed up and I really, every day I woke up at 5 a.m. and I wrote every day.
Wow.
I wrote every day, and the piece just sort of came together, yeah.
So what are you going to play for us before you guys leave? What are you playing?
So it's always hard for me to pin down what I'm going to play. I think what I want to do now is play a variety of songs that I love.
Oh, great.
And
great.
So I hope you guys love it. I hope you guys recognize the songs I'm
okay.
going to play.
We're getting
Ray
a lot.
Angry, one more
we have
time.
people that text message us. You are a big hit here today. People are like, "Wow, amazing, best Friday."
Oh wow,
music
thank
we've had
you.
lately." Yeah, I mean, fabulous musician, and they love your shirt.
Oh, thank you. Oh, they can see us online.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yes.
right. That's right. They can see
So,
on
Ray,
the
do you
Zoom.
want to visit your piano? And
Yes,
we'll talk to
yes.
Jonathan for
Okay.
another minute. Ray Angry is going to play for us one more time.
Oh.
What's that say? Do you want to say something?
Well, I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my
Oh,
heart
you're
for having
welcome.
me here.
We're thrilled to have you.
I'm really honored to be here.
Well, we feel the same about
yeah,
having
I
you
really,
here.
really mean that. And Jonathan, no words. This guy's incredible.
We're not that excited about having him here, but we're really excited.
So, Jonathan, do you
You're
have an
okay,
instrument? Do you have an
Jonathan.
instrument?
Yeah, concert instrument was oboe and English horn, actually.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Well, you do your
And
stuff all
keyboard.
over the country too, don't you?
Well, all over the world. I just came back from Bunkakaikan in Japan.
You did?
Wow.
Yeah, did Swan Lake there.
Oh my God.
So that was fun. I do want to poke in a couple of thank yous.
Sure.
Because thank
Please
yous
do.
super important. You talked about things with the regional orchestras. This project would never have happened unless I'd had a board member, Deborah Brown, and her husband, David Brown, supporting this. And then the Clareman
Ray
Foundation.
just shouted his support if people
It's
can't
okay.
hear it, by the way.
And the Clareman Family Foundation also added their support to it. It's a huge project. Those people are important. And I should mention we have two very important soloists in this as well. Carissa Lee, who's playing the flute solo that you heard in that little clip,
Yeah.
jazz flutist. She's the new generation of entrepreneurial, multi-talented people. And Bashiri Johnson, who is like the who's who at Michael Jackson band for 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you go through who's who in popular music, Bashiri was there. And him playing with us is huge.
Do you want to thank Boston Public Radio or not?
I will definitely
Okay, fine.
finish with Boston Public
Okay,
Radio,
fine.
even
Thank
though
you.
you weren't thrilled with having me here.
Well, we're thrilled enough. You know what I mean? Here he is yet again, Ray Angry.
That was fantastic.
Thrilling.
We have been speaking with Ray Angry, composer and pianist for The Roots, The House Band over at NBC's Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, my
and
God.
Jonathan McPhee,
Standing
music
ovation, I
director
should say, at the
for
library.
Lexington Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, my
You can
God.
get tickets at lexingtonsymphony.org. How long is this going to go on for? The performances.
It's a single.
One night.
One night. So if you want to
Saturday.
go, you
This
better get
Saturday.
your act together and get out there this Saturday. The
Wow.
Lexington Symphony Orchestra will premiere Ray Angry's first ever symphony, Black Athena-Power. Thank you, gentlemen, so much
Just
for
fabulous.
coming in. That was a
And
wonderful
thank you
treat.
both for
Thank
having us
you,
here.
Jonathan
Coming up,
and Ray. We just loved it.
We're going to go to
Thank you
something
so
a little ridiculous, but
This
it
is
was
almost
Jim's. It was
embarrassing.
Jim's idea. I didn't want to do it. Okay, we're going to argue about which is the best Thanksgiving dessert. 877. What can I say?
It's who we
It is
are.
what it is. 877-301-8970. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
The GOP has won the House for next year, but there's still more than a month of governing to be done this year. So what's on the holiday wish list of the outgoing 117th Congress? We're checking in on the big agenda of Congress's final days and asking if that's a swagger we've noticed pepping up President Biden's step. That's next time on The Takeaway from WNYC and PRX.
This afternoon at 2, here on GBH News 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and Ocean State Job Lot, partnering with customers to help veterans in the Northeast by donating winter coats to those in need. More at oceanstatejoblot.com. That's oceanstatejoblot.com. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan. Always Health Partners is now Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing the same plans, coverage, and a broad network of doctors. You can follow Mass General Brigham Health Plan on social at MGB Health Plan.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming online at youtube.com/GBH. Was that breathtaking?
It's
or was
unbelievable.
That breathtakingly beautiful?
I mean, so talented. Unbelievable.
Wow, that was incredible.
We have some
Standing
breaking news.
ovation.
We have some breaking
We do.
news
Why
here.
don't you share with people before we get to our topic?
Well, the New York Times is reporting that the Justice, we were just talking about Taylor Swift, the debacle, trying to get tickets for her concerts. Well, the Justice Department has opened an antitrust investigation into the owner of Ticketmaster, whose sale of Taylor Swift concerts descended into chaos this week. Said two people with knowledge of the matter. The investigation is focused on whether Live Nation Entertainment has abused its power over the multi-billion-dollar live music industry. Apparently, the investigation predates this,
I didn't know
this
that.
botched sale. Well, that's what the
Well,
Times
also,
is
one addition to what Sue O'Connell said when she said Taylor Swift hadn't spoken out, which she hadn't. There's a story now in Axios saying she condemns, quote, the excruciating Ticketmaster experience, whatever that means. Earlier in the show, we talked with Callie about the veritable, undisputed best pie of Thanksgiving, from her perspective, the sweet potato pie, or is it the pumpkin pie? Are you an apple household, a pecan household? And forget the flavor. We really want to know if you're baking it all yourself, if you're opting for a more reliable option, like buying it from somewhere like Flour or Community Servings, or are you a pie-free Thanksgiving kind of household? The number is 877-301-8970. We have a BPR YouTube poll. 82%, I don't want to say this because Callie's still here, 82% pick pumpkin over sweet potato. By the way, you didn't weigh in this at all. Do you like pie? I don't even know.
I do like pie.
What do you like?
Well, I think the thing to do on Thanksgiving is to take a little slice of them all, right? So you can have the pumpkin, you can have the pecan, which is a little sweet for some people, but I like it anyway.
You bake them all, obviously.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I bake them all. Or the sweet potato. The crucial thing is you have homemade, fresh whipped cream on top.
Huge.
That is the crucial.
I would agree with you.
You can't have somebody who's saying they have like a, ready whip out of the bottle. You can't do that, or out of the can.
Do you say pecan or pecan?
Well, I say pecan. Do you say?
Well, I do say pecan, but everybody says it's an affectation.
Pecan?
I do say pecan.
Do you say tomato?
I do say tomato. No, I don't say tomato, but I do say pecan.
Yeah, do you say potato?
No, Marjorie, I don't need to get into this. It was a narrow topic, which was pecan or pecan, and you say pecan.
I said pecan.
In any case, let's
That's
take some
right.
calls. This is a pie. Just how humiliating is it being
Very
talking about
humiliating.
pies after Ray Angry
It's very
plays?
humiliating.
Like
But it's
he
too late
plays.
now, Jim. Did you say that's what we are?
It
That's
is who
what
we are.
I can't
Amber
escape
in
it.
Worcester, you were first on Boston Public Radio. Thank you so much for calling in. What's up?
Hi, first time caller. Love your show.
Thank
you.
I'm a pumpkin pecan girl,
You are.
and I don't like sweet potato pie, and I have a good reason.
Why?
My fiance, it was Christmas Eve. We'd been at a friend's. He'd had way too much to drink. His request for Christmas Day was a sweet potato pie, but on the way home, he passed out on my shoulder. And then when I took a turn, could not get the window down in time.
Oh.
So it's half in the car, half out the car.
No.
That is. And are you still talking to that guy or what?
We've been married for 11 years.
Oh, you are? That was not my question. I said, are you still talking to the guy?
He hasn't gotten another pie. But that's not the best part is we get home.
Oh, there's more.
I tell him to just go in the house. I'll take care of the dogs. He strips naked in the house.
Love that.
I hear a noise. I come in. He's like a turtle flipped over on his back on the hardwood floor naked.
Wait, he's naked on his
on the
back.
hardwood floor. Yes.
You ever heard the expression TMI, Amber, or have you not? Don't tell me there's more to this, is there?
I love the
there's more.
details. Okay.
There's more. He knocked out the stove, so he's like, I got this. He pushed it back, went and passed out on the couch. My dog went and licked his bare bum. So the next morning, I'm making his pie. I'm in the kitchen whisking away. It's very, very complicated. He goes out to clean up the car. And he walks inside with the car door panel and says, yeah, I'm going to take this down in the basement and hose it off. So never another pie for him.
So was he naked when he went out to the car the next day, or was he not?
He had woken up and taken a shower and put some clothes
Well,
on.
Amber, you made a choice. You're going to have to live with it. What can I say? Amber, thank you very much for your call and happy Thanksgiving. By the way, CNN is reporting Attorney General Garland will appoint a special counsel over the investigations into the Mar-a-Lago documents, parts of the January 6th insurrection. All I can say is work quickly. Let's go to Vera in Abington. You're next on Boston Public Radio. Thank you so much. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks.
Great. Well, my favorite dessert is the one that no one will admit to.
What's that?
My favorite dessert on Thanksgiving is a nice turkey stuffing cranberry sandwich with hot gravy to dip in.
Oh, no.
No one will admit it.
I'll admit it. It's fabulous. It doesn't get... Do you like that,
There you go.
Marjorie?
The sandwich?
Stuffing, cranberry, all that stuff on good bread, and then you dip it in the gravy.
It sounds pretty good to me. I like mushing things together. I like putting peas in the mashed potatoes and that kind of
So,
stuff.
Vera, no pies for you, or what?
Oh, sure, but that's for later in the evening.
Got it.
That's
okay.
We love the sandwich, and that's why I'm on heart medication to this very day. But we won't go there.
Two incredible
Thank you very
calls.
much.
Thank you
Vera,
for the
happy
call.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thanks for the call.
One person has just texted Toll House cookie pie. And then somebody else says they're doing an all-pie Thanksgiving, chicken pot pie, enchilada pie, pecan pie, and apple pie. That's a lot of pies, no question about it.
You know, by the way, speaking of pies, a total aside, you know what I forgot to do? Remember we were talking about comfort foods the other day?
Yes.
And I said to you my favorite comfort food was shepherd's pie?
Yep.
You know what was delivered courtesy of the Lennox Hotel? Brendan Griffin, who's the director of operations, who's a fan of ours and we're a fan of his, and we wanted to thank him. One of the best shepherd pies I ever had in my life.
Well, you know, I was talking to Mike this morning over at the Lennox Hotel, and we're going to get another shepherd pie over there, for somebody else.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, very nice.
You don't even like it as much as I
do.
Why
I like shepherd's pie.
Well, you like it because you're getting a free one. That's why.
Well, and it will be delicious because it's from the Lennox Hotel.
And
North
North
Attleboro. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Ann.
Thank you. Love you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to tell you, when I was growing up, we had a pretty big family, cousins, aunts, everybody. And there was one Thanksgiving where we had 22 people there and 22 pies.
Oh, my God.
A lot of different kinds.
Oh.
And they all went.
How many different kinds, Ann?
There was, my aunt made a cherry pie with like a cheesecake on the bottom, a couple of different apples, squash, brownie, pecan.
Wow.
Yeah, my mother would whip out the cookbook and just, there was a coconut custard pie, lemon meringue, like whatever you wanted. If somebody knew it was somebody's favorite, that pie was there.
Well, you can hear the smile in your voice. By the way, the one food thing that you and I do agree on, Marjorie, and thanks for the call, Ann, is having almost like a dim sum of pies.
Yeah.
A little taste of lots of different flavors is really as good as it gets.
What's your favorite, did you say?
Well, the chocolate something pie from Flour is probably my favorite all-time pie. But I like,
Boston cream pie?
No, it's not. I don't know if it's. I'm looking it up right now. I'll tell you what it is in a second. But I have to say, I like pumpkin pie. I really like pumpkin pie.
Well, it's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving. It's a good day for pumpkin pie. Somebody's putting a Cool Whip mixture in their pie. You can't do the Cool Whip. You have to do the real whipped cream. You have to do the real whipped cream. Absolutely. Let's go now to, who are we going to? We're going to Leah in the car.
Hey, Leah.
Thank you for calling, Leah.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Excellent.
Sitting in traffic. So I heard Marjorie say that she likes pecan pie, but sometimes it's too sweet.
Yes.
So I make a cranberry pecan pie.
Oh, now that's interesting.
And?
Yeah, it actually came out really, because I love cranberries. It's great, actually, because I like cranberries, but to just do a cranberry pie would kind of be too tart.
Yeah, so you do a cranberry pie kind of in addition to the cranberry sauce.
Or pecan, as she and you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the sauce that you put to make the pecans, you add fresh cranberries, not cans, not the gel, not the regular cranberries, and it actually cuts some of the sweet of pecan.
How do you feel about Cool Whip, Leah?
I don't use it. I either use ice cream or really whipped cream. It's not that hard to whip cream.
Oh, it's really easy to whip cream. You put all the utensils in the
Leah,
in the freezer. You know, you put the whipping things and the container, put them all in the freezer.
You do?
Yes, and that makes it whip faster. A little touch of sugar if you want. You don't have to do it that way, Jim.
So, by the way, the pie I was talking about is the chocolate cream pie, which unfortunately is sold out at Flour right now, which is the best. Now, you, I assume, based on what Leah said, will be making the cranberry pecan pie. Is
I will
that what
not.
you're selecting?
No, I'm
you ever
not.
made a pie in your life?
No. Have
Not
you?
one?
No.
Yes.
I'm not much of a cook,
Yes,
Jim.
I have.
Really?
I made a pumpkin pie. I
Well,
made
that's
a
very
number
good.
of pumpkin pies.
I have not made any pies in my life. I made cakes.
Can I
I've not
just
made
summarize, if I may?
I make
Marjorie
parsley carrots, so that's my contribution.
Okay, fine. Marjorie has never made a pie in her life.
I have not.
How many turkeys have you made in your life?
One.
One turkey. One turkey and no pies. That's all you need to know here.
I'm not much of a cook. And thank goodness I'm surrounded by people who like to do it.
That is
so
good.
I just have to show up with a little addition. Bill from Haverhill, thank you for calling.
Hey, Bill, what's up?
Hi. I remember my grandparents years ago always had a chunk of cheddar cheese on top of their apple pie. And since I've grown up, I've never run into that.
Well, by the way, my mother did this. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Did the same deal. I don't know. Was that a tradition from a
Yes.
different generation? Or?
I remember doing it when I was a kid, apple pie with cheddar cheese
Well, you know
on it.
what's weird? Cheddar with an apple, a slice of an apple is fabulous. So why are we not doing what Bill's grandparents did? Why are we not doing that now? Maybe some people are.
Well, I'd rather have the whipped cream or the ice cream.
Bill, do you do it or do you not do it?
I do not do it. And I haven't run into anybody else who does it.
Well, we'll find out if there's anybody out here who's in that crowd. Bill, thanks for sharing that story with us.
Elaine in southern New Hampshire likes coconut cream with a nice flaky crust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of the orange ones as more Thanksgiving than, don't you think? I mean, orange is the Thanksgiving color, right?
Orange is the thing, because it looks like a pumpkin.
Yes, exactly. Let's go to Ann in Cohasset. What do you think, Ann?
I think you should forget the pies and go with plum pudding.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't even know what plum pudding is.
Oh,
what is plum
that's
pudding?
that British thing, right?
Is it?
Of the gods.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you put hard sauce, which you have to make yourself, with lots of butter and rum and sugar, and it's just wonderful.
Marjorie doesn't like butter, so that's unfortunately she can't. She only likes it by the stick. And thanks for the call. Zoe, did you see Zoe's note, our coworker? My mother used to make apple pumpkin and sometimes key lime pie. Here are her thoughts. Quote, why not just make what you want to? It's always well received, sort of a surprise when it's non-traditional. Nothing wrong with shaking things up a bit.
You could be sort of a Thanksgiving outlaw, Jim.
Someone's coming to my house tomorrow night that is making a key lime pie, by the way. Speaking
Really?
of Zoe's mother, yeah.
What's your favorite kind of pie?
What do you mean the same one? I haven't changed my mind since pumpkin,
Yeah, but
30
this is
seconds
your
ago.
Thanksgiving. I was talking about
The
in
chocolate
general.
pie from flour.
Banana cream.
A banana cream is
Love
pretty good,
banana
too.
cream pie. Okay, we are done.
How many pies you ever made again?
None. Zero.
I just want to
Absolutely
remember.
none.
Okay, zero. None.
I love to
None
eat
ever.
them, though. Somebody else can make them.
Yes,
Welcome
you do.
back to Boston Public Radio. Oh, we are done. That's the wrong page. Thanks for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast. Tune in Monday. We're going to have Shannon Lease Reed, and she is suing Twitter over Elon Musk's handling of the company with widespread layoffs. Good for her, because I think this is terrible how he's treated these people. Legendary environmentalist Bill McKibben is going to be with us in the studio, Jim.
Oh, he is?
Plus, we'll talk with Turkeytown filmmaker Ansley Floyd, the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett Price, and a BPR bringing us back our musical roundtable with some local legends. Brian O'Donovan from Celtic Sojourn, Brian McCreath, who knows everything there is to know about the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the Boston Pops, Tanglewood, everything, and James Bennett, the second from our staff, who knows everything there is to know about music in general. He's really a whiz, so that's going to be really fun. I want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Mackenzie Farkas. Additional support provided by Gia Orsino, Brendan Deedy, Fernando Cervantes. Our engineer is John LeClaw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. And thanks to the BPL team here at the library, Sai Patel, Evelyn Brito, Angelica Marrero, and Brad Lewis. You're not on TV tonight?
No, but what's in the next segment coming up?
We're done.
Oh, we're done.
Yes,
I'm
we're
sorry.
done. We're done. But Jared Bowen's on tonight at 8:30, Open Studio. Callie Crossley on at 7:30,
Basic,
Beat
black,
the Press.
the whole deal.
7 o'clock, Adam Riley talking about politics.
Yeah, the
Big
show's
lineup
over,
on
you know
GBH.
that.
We do. I'm Marjorie.
Thank you all for coming. We
Thank
really
you very much.
appreciate it.
Keep your
Thank you so
library.
much.
Yep. Have
We'll
a great
see you on
weekend.
Monday. Have a great
Hope to see you
weekend.
Monday. Bye.
cityyear.org. If you don't see race, you're not seeing the full picture. Don't miss Basic Black.